Recording in progress.
Call this meeting of the Greenbelt City Council to order. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Good evening. Ms. McKinney? Here. Ms. Pompey? Here. Ms. Pope?
Here.
Ms. Niesel?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Ms. Weaver?
Here.
Mayor Jordan?
I'm here. Please join us in a moment of silent reflection as we remember several Greenbelt residents and others who passed away since the last council meeting. Residents Regina K. Murphy, Dorothy Dottie Ann Spivak, Stephanie Don, and Betty Edwards. Please join us in a moment of reflection. Thank you very much. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation of God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, let me just begin by saying we hold council meetings 2 times a month, generally except for August and December. On Mondays also, work sessions to set policy, the meetings, and to take formal action. Our meetings are always open to the public except for executive sessions, as authorized by state law, so that residents and others can observe council and its deliberations. We do strive to provide reasonable opportunities for the public to voice opinions on matters being considered, and we'll pause periodically for public comment. During these times, if you wish to address council, after raising your hand, you'll be recognized. If you'll go to the podium, you'll need to state your name and where you live in Greenbelt. We need that for the minutes. And if you're on Zoom, we ask you to use the Q&A tab to submit a written question, or you can raise your virtual hand, and once recognized, you'll be able to speak. And finally, if you are watching on cable TV, or if you are looking at YouTube or Instagram, Facebook streaming, you can send an email to us. And the email address is questions@greenbeltmd.gov. So we're about to do petitions and requests, which is an opportunity for residents to speak on a subject. We record all of the comments of the city clerk. We do not answer questions back and forth during petitions and requests because it's your time to speak. So during this time, please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. Speak on one topic related to the question under consideration. If there's a number of you on the same topic that are here today, if possible, if one of you could speak on behalf of everyone, that would be great. And finally, as always, I'm going to say this: we ask that you avoid questioning the motives of others. And in general, let's all be civil in our remarks. So at this time, I'll ask the question, are there any petitions or requests? I see Mr. Orleans back there. Mr. Orleans?
Thank you, Orleans resident. I have previously asked, when I filed my Maryland Public Information request, for a copy of the email that the Mayor Pro Tem used to initiate this question that will be heard later tonight, and a copy of the JEDI action team letter. I subsequently received a copy of the letter. I note that it's in the agenda package for tonight, the full agenda package. But I've yet to receive a copy of the email initiating this process. I think it's important because the timeline is important. At the last regular meeting, the Mayor Pro Tem was absent, so I refrained from raising the question that I had wanted to ask that night. From the previous regular meeting, when this was first on council's agenda, the Mayor Pro Tem made a point of saying that council had discussed this substantially and that Mr. Roberts, the member in question, had an opportunity to participate in that discussion. Of course, that discussion was not a public discussion, leaving one to assume that it would have had to have been a private discussion, most likely in closed session. At no point, I'm of the view that Greenbelt Council holds more closed sessions than any other jurisdiction in the state of Maryland. But that aside, at no point in reports from closed sessions that have occurred over the last several months has there been reference to a discussion of potential sanctioning of another of a council member for conduct deemed abusive by one or more members of council. So my question specifically tonight, and I'd like to suggest that while the mayor in his reading of what has become his regular statement opening the meeting, council chooses not to respond to comments made during petitions or requests. It can if it wants to. So the mayor's suggestion that it cannot is misleading. It can if it wants to. In any event, I'm asking the Mayor Pro Tem, since she initiated this process, as far as I can tell, and that since she said 2 regular meetings ago in public session that council had discussed the potential sanctioning of one of its members over abusive so-called conduct during a work session, when and where did council discuss this? Because it was not in open session and there have been no reports of this discussion taking place in closed session. So when and where did council discuss this? I'm asking specifically the Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm not going to respond to that right now, Mr. Orleans. I do not believe the petitions portion of it is the appropriate time to respond to that.
No, you choose not to, but you can if you wanted to.
And I said I do not believe that now is
Thank
the
you very
appropriate
much.
time to
For
respond.
the city manager, I'm still awaiting a copy of that email from the Mayor Pro Tem initiating this process. Thank you.
Mr. Orleans, I do not believe we received an MPIA request for that email. Did you submit an MPIA request?
I will find my copy that was
Is that-
provided to me and point it out to the city manager.
Okay. Okay, we will fulfill that request when we get it.
Okay. Other petitions or requests? Please, ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Mary Ann Cantor. I live in Lakewood. I just want to be sure we can comment, and I don't know if now's the time, about the censure of Mr. Roberts. We just want to comment on our opinions about it. We don't want to be.
In my opinion, this is a good time to
Is this the
comment.
time?
Yes.
Or we can wait
It will
until
be,
it
it will
comes
be
up?
coming up on the agenda on number 14, I believe.
Well, it's on the agenda. As to whether or not we are taking public comment on that agenda item, that remains to be seen. So I would say that this is a good time to make a statement.
Wait a minute, you know. What do you mean? It's a question of whether there will
What
take
I said,
comment
Mr.
on
Roberts.
that issue.
I mean
You have to
exactly
t-
what I
You have to
said.
take comment on that issue.
It's not, this is not a trial, sir.
Our charter requires this city council to provide opportunity to its residents to speak on every issue before it. That's our charter saying that. We have a responsibility to let people speak. If you're just gonna ram this through, I'm gonna get up and walk out right now because I'm not putting up with it.
In my opinion, this is a personnel matter with council. We don't really discuss
Not a personnel
matters.
matter.
It's a council personnel matter, sir.
Well, I don't mind expressing the opinion now.
Please go ahead.
What do you?
Ms. Pope.
I have something to, someone wants this read into the minutes, because they're not able to be here today. But, I don't think it's, Rodney, I don't think it's the issue that we don't want to hear people. I think that's okay. I think the question is, are we going to hear people now, or do we wait until we get to the,
That's what I'm
to
asking.
the
yeah.
actual, right, exactly. I totally understand, because.
We never take answers to a agenda item like this during petitions and requests.
We're not
That's,
taking answers,
that's
we're
not
taking
something that
statements.
happens here. So why is it happening now, I'm questioning.
Well, you're more than welcome to
Just
make
go
this
ahead and
statement
make
now,
your
or you
statement.
can wait until we get to that particular item. So it's your choice.
We have often had people comment on later agenda items and petitions.
Yeah. So I'll go.
They don't
I'll go
wanna
now,
stay
and
until
then
the
I'll
peti-
wait
the-
and see what happens also on number 14. So anyway, from my understanding of the problem, and I viewed both the videotapes that are available, is that Mr. Roberts behaved inappropriately. And it sounds really bad, but I didn't, listening to those tapes, I didn't find anything particularly egregious. He did use the word dumb one time, but that wasn't in reference, it wasn't name calling. It was in reference to something that happened, not attacking a person. I think that it's not really right to censure him, that there isn't enough evidence. I know there's probably other things that we didn't see, but from what's available that I have seen, that I was told was the supposed evidence, I didn't see anything worthy of censure. And I don't understand, why you just don't apply a 3-minute rule? If he goes on and on, there's no 3-minute rule, then mayor started yelling, and it's just, wouldn't it make it a lot simple to just have 3 minutes for everybody? So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, appreciate your comments. Yes, please go ahead.
My name is Clara Keene, and I'm in Lakewood, 14 Fayette Place. And I would also like to speak to address this same censure issue. I don't understand from my review of the video. It seems to me that the context of this whole thing was that Mr. Roberts questioned the cost of a sole source external proposal to rebuild and replace the engine of a city vehicle. And I, for one, am very happy that Mr. Roberts was willing to use his considerable expertise, relevant experience for the benefit of the city by questioning whether a proposed expenditure brought to the council for its approval was indeed reasonable. And I watched the video of the August 12th meeting, and I didn't hear anything abusive, disrespectful, or demeaning directed towards city employees. So, I spent a long time as a scientist and a lawyer, and I'm truly dismayed, really dismayed, that the memorandum of complaint from the JEDI Action Team suggests that questioning the acceptance of a sole source quote or allowing employees the opportunity to learn on the job is somehow disrespectful, demeaning, or abusive. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? Is there anybody online? I'm having a
Oh,
hard time.
there's,
getting online.
there was one hand raised, yes, Michael Hartman.
Could you promote
Yeah, Mr. Hartman
and then
has
we'll go
the-
to, you have a statement from a resident. that can
I
be
do have a statement, so if you want me to read it now or later, just,
After Mr. Hartman.
okay.
It's okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Great, thank you. Sorry I can't be there. I'm just in the final, just getting over COVID. So anyway, what I want to say is that as we rapidly move towards the end of the year, I want to express my deep appreciation for and actual wonderment at the work of the city staff under the able leadership of Assistant City Manager Tim George and City Manager Josue Salmeron in the distribution of the $22 million ARPA funds. I think they did a wonderful job in the development and implementation of a plan of action that included input from and was responsive to the residents and the business community. And I really want to thank Mr. George and Mr. Salmeron in taking the lead in that effort. And I just want to express my appreciation. It was a daunting task, and they, with the city staff, they pulled it off beautifully. I think it was very responsive, and I thought the distribution of funds was appropriate to people's needs. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Let's see. So anybody else online? Ms. Pope?
Yeah, I received a letter, and I was asked to read this into the record tonight because they're not able to be here. This letter is from Scott Legendre from 2M Eastway in Greenbelt. Honorable Mayor Jordan, Mayor Pro Tem Weaver, members of City Council, and Mr. Salmeron. I'm writing to address the issue regarding the proposed censure of Councilmember Roberts as requested by the JEDI Committee. To my understanding, the JEDI Committee is composed of select employees from each city department. I do not agree with the proposed process to censure Councilmember Roberts. What Councilmember Roberts said regarding the cost for the vehicle repairs was accurate. It was the verbiage he used that was taken out of context. If there was an issue with the statement of Councilmember Roberts directed towards Deputy Chief White at the August 12, 2024 council meeting, the issue should have been addressed internally between Chief Bowers, Deputy Chief White, City Manager Salmeron, and Mayor Jordan. If other members of city staff were offended by Councilmember Roberts' comments, their issues should have been brought before the Employees Department Director, City Manager Salmeron, Mayor Jordan, along with the Director of Human Resources. Council should not allow this anonymous committee to raise these allegations against a sitting council member without all the incidents being made public. The only publicly known incident was raised at the August 12, 2024 council meeting. It is unclear as to how and when members of the JEDI Committee received authority to dictate how members of council should conduct themselves. The JEDI Committee bringing such proposed action against a seated council member is alarming. To the best of my knowledge, the JEDI Committee members were never granted authority by the council to act on their own accord in recommending actions being taken against a seated council member. Members of the JEDI Committee have never been identified to the public or Councilmember Roberts as of the November 18, 2024 council meeting. Prior requests by the public for identification of JEDI Committee members have gone unanswered. JEDI Committee members are employees of the city. Since the JEDI Committee has raised allegations of misconduct by Councilmember Roberts, the identification should be made to Councilmember Roberts. According to the transcript provided by the JEDI Committee of the August 12, 2024 council meeting, it appears as though members of the JEDI Committee have assumed that Councilmember Roberts' comments were out of order. While it is unknown what comments were made in private discussions, it is inappropriate to judge Councilmember Roberts' conduct based on implied allegations. Any person who is facing censure proceedings should have the legal entitlement to know the identity of the individual or persons raising the charge prior to questioning. Respectfully, Scott Legendre, 2M Eastway, Greenbelt, Maryland.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other petitions or requests? Yes, please, sir.
Keith Yehoda, Fayette Place. I think the letter that was just read raises the issue of governance. My understanding is that we have a city council with one employee, the city manager. The city manager has a number of employees and policies there. The JEDI Committee, as I understand it, is made up of city employees, and therefore their audience is Mr. Salmeron. Mr. Salmeron could speak to his employers should he deem it appropriate and tell them about concerns about the working environment created by his employers. But I think the governance issue raised in the last letter, which Ms. Pope just read, is that the council works for us, the citizens who elected all of you, and the JEDI committee work for Mr. Salmeron. So if it is the case that the city committee brought something directly to council, we should examine whether that is, the proper governance model for the city. And I'm concerned that it is not. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there are no further petitions, or Mr. Rand, please.
Hi, Bob Rand, 19 Ridge Road. Well, I'll take the opportunity now because it seems uncertain what's happening later. So I'd like to speak in support of the JEDI team complaint. I agree that Mr. Roberts' comments to staff and council over the past few years are sometimes disrespectful, demeaning, and abusive. I'm really surprised to hear sometimes what you say, Mr. Roberts. I disagree. Sorry. I disagree with the censure approach. Sorry, I get something. I disagree with the censure approach, but I do believe that these kind of issues should be addressed during a city council meeting. And I would remind council that per standing rules, the best way to handle a comment that's being abusively addressed to the public or to staff is to call it out in the moment and deal with it at that moment. Thank you. I do hope that we have the opportunity to discuss this more during the item.
Well, thank you, thank you. So it's not a question and answer. I'd like to move on. Is it council's will to for me to recognize Mr. Roberts?
Mr. Roberts will Mr. Roberts will have a chance to address this issue when it's on the agenda. I mean, if he wants to say something now, I don't have a problem with that. But council always gets a chance to speak at the agenda. It's a question of whether we open it up to other comments at that point. This is the period for public comment.
It is the period for.
But council gets to speak during the entire meeting. So, but if you want to recognize Mr. Roberts now, yeah.
Is that council's will?
I'm fine with that as long as he stays within the timed confines.
Just 5 minutes. Yes, please go ahead.
Well, first of all, I don't think the council, it's in our rules that says that the council has to approve another council member of being able to speak. That's ludicrous. That's you're holding me to a way different standard than anyone else here. And what I want to do is I want a special order number 14, because it's obvious people are ready to discuss this issue. We've already had some discussion. So I want to move that up right now and get it over with. Because to tell you the truth, this issue is causing me a lot of pain, emotional, physical, mental, and monetary pain because of the time I've had to spend trying to find legal representation, which I haven't been able to do so far. So I want this done because it's killing me inside. It has struck me to my very soul, into my heart. I'm hurting, and I want it over with now. And I want to be able to speak, and I want the public to be able to speak, because I'm being falsely accused here, and I want it to be known.
Did you make a motion?
I made a motion to special order number 14, please.
Is there a second? Okay, is there any further discussion? Just want to make sure, it's not a trial. This is in my opinion, is a personnel action, a council personnel action. But let's go ahead and take a vote if there's no further discussion. All in favor of special ordering item number 14 to the next agenda item, please say, well, actually,
We haven't actually adopted the agenda yet.
So that's out of order. So let's go ahead. Are there any modifications to the consent agenda?
Yes, I'd like to pull number 31 off of the consent agenda, please. That is the Space Workforce Development Grant.
Okay. And what number would you want to put that at? Number,
It's just a quick conflict of interest that I need to get out of the way, so we can put it wherever. It just needs to be voted on.
So it can stay where it is, just off the consent agenda.
okay. Okay, any other modifications? I move that we adopt the consent agenda as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. And that brings us to the agenda. Any modifications to the agenda? Mr. Roberts, would you if you're going to make that motion, would you make it again at this?
Special order number 14.
Is there a second for that?
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor of adding that, modifying the agenda? Or let me just, if I can, let us go ahead and adopt the agenda as amended. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please
a
say.
question.
Yes, go ahead.
We're specially ordering 14. Where are we special ordering it to?
Next item
To
before
the next item,
presentations. yeah.
before presentations. Okay, thank you.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion does carry. So that is going to bring us to item number 14. And the item is entitled Addressing Unbecoming Conduct of a Council Member per Council Standing Rules. And this is a agenda item that was proposed by Mayor Pro Tem. And it was actually proposed 2 council meetings ago, but because of council travel and the fact that several members of council were not available, we deferred it to tonight's meeting. So, Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to go ahead and make your motion?
Yeah, so the background information is in the agenda packet, and it was originally on the October 28th meeting. I apologize that my work travel didn't allow me to be here so we could address it sooner than November 18th after Mr. Roberts wanted to delay it. But so we received this memo, as has been discussed, and the JEDI Action Team, which was a memo given to Mr. Salmarone and then passed on to council, but there were some requests of council to rein in the behavior of one of our colleagues who was perceived by the JEDI Action Team, and I believe many others, to have on occasion behave in ways that were rude and insulting to staff. They addressed a specific one in the memo, the August 12th, which now the memo is in the agenda packet, that was specifically concerning, but also addressed the pattern of behavior, the continued pattern of disrespectful and verbally abusive behavior exhibited by Councilmember Roberts. And so the reason, all of council received the memo, and I think that, which includes the statements about, from our standing rules about public council meetings not being the time to raise personnel matters related to improper performance or conduct of city employees, such as whether a bid for engine replacement was an appropriate thing and whether it was dumb or not, that sort of thing, and the council unbecoming. And I agree that Mr. Mayor Jordan does try to rein in Mr. Roberts during meetings, and it didn't seem like it clearly that has not been effective enough. The JEDI Action Team felt that it was not sufficient. And I think I'm going to just read the last couple of paragraphs of what I wrote in the agenda, and then I can address a few of the other things that came up. But being rude and insulting to staff and questioning their skills and capacity in a public meeting is conduct unbecoming of a council member and should be reined in by the presiding officer with the support of rest of council. If necessary, the offending council member should be removed from the meeting. Our standing rules do not outline further consequences for council members violating the rules, but it is the responsibility of city council as a body to address inappropriate behavior of its members and at the very least publicly rebuke our colleague for his poor behavior and not let it stand unchallenged. The JEDI Action Team further points out that behavior such as that exhibited by Mr. Roberts negatively impacts employee morale, creativity, and full participation in the workplace. As has been emphasized through our JEDI audit process, it's not just intent, but ultimately impact that matters. The example of good behavior and creation of a supportive and inclusive environment begins at the top with the elected officials of the city. As a lesson from this and other incidents, it would be in our best interest to further codify as part of the standing rules or as a separate code of conduct the expected behaviors of council members and the consequences for misbehaviors. With all the foregoing as background, I move for a public rebuke of Mr. Rodney Roberts for conduct unbecoming a council member, including making disparaging and insulting comments about city staff in a public meeting and negatively impacting the morale and productivity of staff and the overall environment in which the city functions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Pompey is seconded. Discussion?
Well, I can add a few things based on what has been brought up. This is not a legal proceeding. I deliberately did not choose the term censure because I think that has a particular meaning, but I do think that it is appropriate. There is not an HR process for this because it is council addressing the behavior of one of our colleagues that I find inappropriate, and we had a request from staff who also clearly it bothered them. It may not bother other people. Not everybody reacts in the same way. But it clearly was something that a group of our staff, whether it was the Jedi Action Team or another group, is inconsequential. It was a group of staff that brought a complaint through Mr. Salmeron to council to address the behavior of one of our colleagues. And I think this is something that we need to do. Now, I wish we had better processes. I deliberately, the reason I asked for this to be put on a public meeting with plenty of notice, with the language in there, was so that it would be a more public and transparent process, because there's not a lot of examples of this, but I think that transparency is important. And the only previous example in my experience was less than transparent than me as a member of the public would have liked. So I wanted to make sure that when I have some control over that process, it's put on the agenda and discussed in a public meeting. I think that Mr. Orleans is misremembering my comments there. I think Ms. Pope made some comments, but all council members had access to this memo. And I think clearly trying to rein Mr. Roberts in when he's made these comments during a meeting was not effective. It did not seem to stop those comments. There are many examples besides the one that the Jedi Action Team brought up. It's public behavior. I think it needs a public redress. And again, it is not a legal action. There is no consequence beyond saying that this behavior is not acceptable by a council member, that a council member should not be insulting and using this type of language towards staff. And that it's not appropriate. And to address some of the other things, it's not about the directness of the comment or even challenging whether the expense was an appropriate one or not, or whether we should get more bids or anything like that. It's the manner in which the comment was made. It is very possible to say that the engine replacement should be re-examined without making some of those comments that you can see in the transcript that I believe and I think others felt were insulting to staff. So it's not about being directing. It's not about Mr. Roberts not being able to question an expense or vote against an expense. It's about the manner in which it's done. And I think that it's not about not liking what Mr. Roberts has to say. That's not the purpose. I think it's about civility and how Mr. Roberts comments, this and others, have an impact on staff. And it really, I think, comes down to intent is not enough. It's about the impact of the statements. And I'm actually very proud that even though these sorts of things have been going on for many years, the Jedi Action Team felt empowered enough to bring this forward to deal with it and to ask council to deal with it. And I think that's a strong statement for the effectiveness and the power behind our Jedi work, because it is empowering staff to bring up something that I think has been bothering staff for years. And there are many examples going back many years of similar sorts of things, but they finally felt empowered to bring it to us to do something about it. So that's what I would like to add to that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. So Mr. Roberts had his hand up next. We'll go around. Can I ask council to indulge me? Can we hold comments to 5 minutes or less, as is the case in our rules for council?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We can have the timer up there too, if that would be helpful. I'd appreciate that.
Mr. Roberts?
Well, I would like someone to read the statements that I made that they think were insulting because, in my opinion, none of my comments were insulting. I have a right to ask questions, and that's the way I make decisions. I ask questions, I try to get the answers to those questions, and then I use that as part of my decision-making process on whether I support something or not. So I have that right and not only a right, a responsibility. And that's what I did here. So I don't hear anyone reading something in here that they claim is objectionable. The first thing I'd like to say is that first, I'd like to point out the difference between how an employee would be, if an employee were charged with something or cited for something by a supervisor, what would be the process? The process would be that employee then would have the right to appeal that to the department head. And then if they didn't get satisfaction there, then they can go and they could appeal that to the city manager. And if they didn't like that outcome, then they have the right to appeal it to the city council. I have been provided with none of those rights. None, nothing. Instead, we have a secret group of employees that have slandered my name in the news review. This is not a baseless, this is not a hurtless issue that's going on, Ms. Weaver. I have been hurt severely. And I think that's what this is intended to do. It's intended to shut me up, to make it so I can't speak. The second thing I want to say is that everyone, you know what the most asked question I get from constituents who I talk to on the street or wherever it is, and friends, everybody, they ask me, how do you stand to stay there with the way you're treated? They tell me you're treated like garbage. That's what I'm told, and I know it. And everybody here knows it. It's an open secret. Anyone that watches or pays any attention to the city council knows that I am treated like a piece of garbage. And every time that the mayor cuts me off, or they shut my microphone off, and they shout me down, that's a violation of my constitutional rights. And while the city council can make all kinds of rules and regulations and laws for the city, we cannot make laws or rules or regulations that violate people's civil rights or their constitutional rights. And my rights have been denied me completely. I had a meeting with the city manager. I requested a bunch of information. Who are the Jedi? How about, I asked for information about all the meetings that were held to get to this point, because obviously the Open Meetings Act has obviously been violated by the people who are saying that I'm a horrible person. They're violating the law in order to prosecute me. So I asked, where are my rights? I have had absolutely no right of due process. My First Amendment right has been denied me, has been violated time and time again. I said my due process. I have a lot, other rights that my right to face my accusers and question my accusers is being denied me. And everyone I speak to says they read this, and I want everyone to read it because I was cheering on our people down at Public Works because I know they could have fixed that problem. And I wasn't even allowed to finish my statements that I made that night. And had I been allowed to finish my statements, maybe people would have understood a little more about where I was coming from. but because my rights were denied me, that didn't happen.
Mr. Roberts.
And I have more to say later on. Thank you.
Ms. Pope, I believe you had your hand up.
I do. I agree that you know, there are some times where it's just the choice of wording is not as professional as it should be, right? And it is offensive at times. So I don't want to make any excuses, but I will not support a censure. I just can't do it because I think this has been handled the wrong way. This should not have come from JEDI. I think if there was an issue or if there is an issue, it should have been handled through the ranks. And it really is our responsibility as council it's our responsibility to keep first of all, to ourselves in line and try to do it the same with others. You know, we're all responsible for ourselves and what we say, and I think we all make mistakes, but I'm not saying he's all innocent and, you know, it's all peachy. No, it's not. I mean, occasion it just sounds, it doesn't sound very good and it's not kind, but I'm not supporting the censure, but it should have went through supervisor, director, city manager, HR, because when the mayor said it's a personnel issues have to be dealt with HR, not through some group not through the JEDI group that comes to us. I think they should have reported maybe to the city manager. There has to be a different way. I just don't agree the way it all happened. So we all have to mind our words. We all have to be careful how we speak to each other, especially I think we are held to a different standard when we're sitting up here, and rightfully so. But to censure someone, I think that is in this case not warranted. Not that there shouldn't be any consequence. I think there should have been a consequence immediately when these things happen. We need to be aware, we need to listen, and we need to, and I know that Mayor Jordan tries often and it gets heated, you know, and it's difficult. It's not easy. It's easier said than done. But we just have to do better than that.
And I just remind everybody, it's not a censure, it is a rebuke or a reprimand. So that language, I think, is important.
So let me just say a couple of things. You know, once again, you know, this is not a trial. It's not a judicial proceeding. We're a city council, and, you know, we have rules. And these rules are well established. For the past 15 years that I've sat on council, there have been very, very few changes to council rules. And all of council is very aware of these rules because we talk about them. We actually argue about them and vote on them every 2 years. So it's no mystery what the rules are. One of our residents wrote and said that he had hoped that we would codify how we respond to these situations. And I, for one, think that when there is a problem, just as issues with employees are not discussed in public, you know, they should be dealt with in executive sessions, and council can read out a statement if it chooses to vote on a personnel matter, a council personnel matter in an executive session. But, you know, the way that this is happening, it's in the council rules, there's no prescription for a penalty for a breach of behavior other than the council member losing the floor. And just let me make this point as a point of personal privilege. When I'm sitting here banging the gavel, asking people to please stop what they're doing because another council member deserves the floor, or as in our council rule states, the council member has lost the floor, you know, I think people need to understand that is, as the chair, it's something that all of council needs to support. And this idea somehow that we are not dealing with issues that come up when we do have an executive session and we're talking about a council issue, these are dealt with very, very strongly. So there are some things that the public may not see that happen. So those are just a couple of points that I wanted to raise. And another rule that we have is that all council members have a right to speak before another council member goes back and makes another statement. So I'd like to give everybody a chance to speak. Councilmember Pompey.
Sure, thank you. I'd like to just start my comments by acknowledging our staff JEDI team and thanking them for the work they're doing and for elevating this concern to council. The JEDI team is a self-selected group of city staff members dedicated to promoting equity, justice, diversity, and inclusion in their workspace. As was revealed in the city's Phase 1 JEDI audit, there was and remains much work to be done, and I'm proud of our city and our staff who are taking on this work to build an environment that is more equitable and inclusive. So thank you for your work. Our city staff are the backbone of this city. They collect our refuse, they clean streets, they maintain our parks and outdoor spaces, they provide social services to our residents, they keep us safe, they keep our building and machinery running, and so much more. I'm so proud of the work that they do, and they deserve to be treated with respect by their colleagues, their superiors, and this council. I believe it took a lot of courage for staff members, and from what I understand, it was several staff members to approach the JEDI team and raise this particular issue that we're discussing tonight. Tonight, we're just addressing one incident, but it is clear that this is part of a pattern of behavior that has left several staff members feeling mistreated, disrespected, and unappreciated. And I know this because several staff members have told me this and have cited incidents over the years that have made them feel this way prior to my sitting on this dais. None of our staff members deserve to feel that way at work, whether it's during their daily work time or when they're here before council. And I'm really thankful that we have this JEDI team that made them feel empowered to bring this concern to us here on council, and that they feel like they finally have an opportunity to request some kind of redress. For this particular situation, I think it's clear that Mr. Roberts' intent and the impact of his comments were not aligned. While others may not feel as though his comments were offensive, it's very clear that staff felt his comments were offensive, and we know that because they told us, and we should believe them. We should believe them when they tell us how they feel and how they're being impacted. And I believe them. I believe what they say, as much as I believe Mr. Roberts when he says this is causing him pain. So I believe that that's true, and I don't believe anyone else here can tell someone that the way they feel is not true. So I also would just like to say that I acknowledge my own part in this situation, and that there are things that I could have done in that situation. I could have called for a point of order when I witnessed the disrespect happening, and I admit that I'm still learning all of the proper procedures here, and I'm thankful to Mayor Jordan, who I had a conversation with earlier this week, who sort of helped me figure out what my role is in when things come into conflict here on the dais. And it's my personal goal that if something like this occurs again, I will step in the way that is appropriate and for me to do so, and in the way that I am responsible for doing so. So I hope you will hold me to that, because I hope to do that. Where am I? Okay. I also agree with the mayor and the mayor pro tem that I think we need a more codified way of dealing with situations like this. So I hope that we do, moving forward, sort of figure out how we do deal with council members violating standing rules on the dais, and that way there's no confusion going forward and everybody knows what to expect. I think everyone understanding expectations is important. And once again, I just want to thank our JEDI team for their bravery in speaking out against people who are in positions of power over them, in their work to make the city more inclusive and equitable. It's not easy to speak out against people who are in power. And I hope that the city will take every precaution that they can so that no members of the team are targeted or harassed for their participation. And thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember McKinney, Councilmember Niesel, would you like to speak?
I would like to thank Councilmember Pompey for that statement. She really said it best. I echo everything she said, and I think that taking personal responsibility for our actions as we are sitting on council in front of you is incredibly important. And as so much of the JEDI team is learning, taking that responsibility and holding yourself to a different standard in the future is key to learning and growing. So I thank the JEDI team for bringing this to us. I hope that we on council can all learn and grow together and be more mindful of our comments moving forward.
Thank you. Councilmember McKinney?
Thank you. I want to take the opportunity to also thank the JEDI team, but more importantly, there are individuals on the JEDI team and there are individuals in the city. And the JEDI team may have been the voice that came through this, but every individual who came forward that talked about sort of the pattern of behavior that they saw, I don't want to dismiss that there was individuals that felt certain ways. And I think we need to make sure that we're not only just hearing the collective, but we're also hearing individuals. And so I think that that's important. I do think that this issue raises to question a number of different points. It's not simply about people feeling as though they are heard or that they have a sense of belonging and that their opinions matter within the city. But then we also do have a separate issue, which is around governance, our standing rules. And then we also have the issue around that we are representing the community and our behavior should be reflective of the trust that the community has put within this council. And I think they elect us because they, in the community, believes that we should be modeling the behavior that they want to see in the community. And so we need to model that up here. We need to model that whenever we engage. And so it's important that we show that. So I think this process, as Mayor Pro Tem is saying, is not a court proceeding or anything else, but it's important for us to really make a strong statement around what we believe our behavior should be from here and moving forward. And that's collective. And that's not just Mr. Roberts, it's everybody on this dais. And we should be held responsible for the things that we do and that we say. And so I also take responsibility in making sure that I am modeling the behavior that I would expect everybody to have moving forward.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So just quickly, I'm going to recognize Mr. Roberts, but no authority has been delegated by council to the JEDI Action Team. So the JEDI Action Team is responsive to the city manager. A council establishes its own rules in the way that it operates. And as I said before, these rules have not really changed much. So council members are aware of what the rules are because we argue and we talk about them. But just want to emphasize once again, in executive sessions, actions are not always taken directly reported out. So in executive sessions, when we're talking about council issues, strong discussions are taking place. So it's not as though these things that have happened over time, over the course of many years, are not talked about really strongly. And I just want to make sure that it's clear that when something happens and we have an executive session about it, it's not known exactly what we are doing, but it's a council personnel matter. It's a council personnel matter. So I don't want to take a lot of time during this meeting because we have a very full agenda. Council has talked about this. We've deliberated. A certain amount of time has actually passed. So I think that council is resolute in what they think. So one thing that I think is important, I think if this kind of an action, be it a rebuke or a censure or whatever you want to call it, when it takes place, I think council needs to be very, very unified in that action. So if some vote is taken, which is what's going to happen in just a couple of minutes, I hope it's a substantial majority, if not all, certainly more than a simple majority, actually support the action. So at this time, I'll cede the floor to Mr. Roberts, but after that, I'd like to propose that we just go ahead and take a vote and initiate this action. Mr. Roberts. So, and that's just my opinion. If
Speak,
you
but
disagree, that's
I'm
fine.
also going to ask that the public be allowed to finish speaking. But I want to let Councilmember Pompey know that city council members have no sway over the city employees. None. The only sway we have is over the city manager. So I hold nothing over the city employees, period. I have no power over them. Number two, we have a rule, one of our main rules is that no council member is allowed to cut off another council member. And that happens to me all the time when the mayor cuts me off. He's not trying to, I'm not doing something bad. He doesn't like what I'm saying or how I'm saying it, then I'm cut off. And the mayor does not have no council member, including the mayor, has the right to cut you off. And when I was cut off on the second meeting regarding this issue, I was very nastily cut off. And not only that, but one of our members here was actually thrown out of the meeting because he sat back there with his hand raised for 45 minutes and wasn't called on. And when he finally shouted out, "Hey, I want to speak," he was attacked verbally by the mayor, and then he was thrown out of the meeting. And all of that was left out. This what you see here, the charging document, is not even a complete document. It has left out important things. So I want to know why. Why does the mayor, why is he allowed to violate our rules and no one says anything about it? Why? But I'm charged. And wait a minute, I got one more thing. I noticed that in this week's news review, the JEDI has again written a letter to the editor chastising a resident who wrote a letter to the editor, Mr. Mason and his wife, criticizing them for what they said. And they're doing that in the name of the city. The JEDI is now associated with the city of Greenbelt. And this is being allowed, that whoever it is, I don't know if it's the whole committee, a committee member, but they're using the committee name, and they're telling a resident, a taxpayer, that they don't have the right to mention this issue, to talk about this issue, to have their opinion heard. So as far as I'm concerned, this JEDI committee has to be dismantled immediately because it's a committee out of control. It's a monster. How can we have any committee? You talked about the committee having, council members having sway over the committee. No, it's that committee that is exercising sway over us. And they have done it through the news review, and they have tarnished my name. So no matter what you say here, that this is not a court proceeding, or this is not this, or it's not that, you have ruined my name. You have done this, and it's done so that I will be shut up and that I will never be able to be elected again. That's what this process is about. And if the council does, depending on what happens tonight, I may have to get legal representation or not. But this JEDI committee is out of control, and how having them out there criticizing our citizens for voicing their opinion is obscene. That, to me, that is what's objectionable here. It's not what I say at meetings. Maybe I have a different way of saying things because I come from a different world. I come from a world where you speak directly to people about stuff. When a customer calls me up and says, hey, I got a machine, it's broke down, I think it's this or that, we have a direct conversation about what it might be or whatever it is. And that's all I was doing on this issue. I was having a conversation with Officer White, and it was perfectly fine until the mayor decided that he didn't like what I was saying, and I was cut off, and my rights were violated. So, yeah, that's really what's going on. And so what is it? You know, are you just gonna allow a group of
Mr. Roberts, please, you've gone
boys
over the 5-minute
to
time
lie
limit.
about you?
Mr.
Because
Roberts?
what they said in the news review was not true. And I want this, I want the city,
Mr. Roberts,
I want the city council.
you're out of order. You've gone beyond 5 minutes. You know, you've already used them, yeah.
So you cut off my.
Yes, I
speech.
am. I'm the presiding officer. I'm responsible for running the meeting and seeing that it moves along. So, I mean, you repeatedly said I'm cutting you off because I don't like what you're saying. I'm cutting you off because you're talking and you're talking and you're talking. You're going in circles, and you know, we have to. We only have so many minutes in an hour, so much time in a day, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Who is next? Ms. Niesel.
Thank you. Just given our discussion just prior to Mr. Roberts' statement, I feel morally obligated to point out that he continued to vilify the JEDI team during that statement and referred to it as monstrous. We cannot have this type of behavior on this dais.
That's my right, and that's what needs to be said.
Roberts, you do not have the floor. Ms. Niesel, would you like to continue? Okay. I think, who's next? Ms. Pope?
Yeah, I mean, the JEDI committee did a lot of positive things. They did a lot of good work as well. I think it's not, we can't sit here and just blame the JEDI committee, you know, for this situation. I think we have to take some personal responsibility as well. Our behaviors are important, and this thing started with what happened at that particular meeting. Now, rightfully so or not rightfully so, that's not even a question right now. But the JEDI committee did really good things too. I don't want you thinking I'm against the JEDI committee. I am not. I'm just saying the whole situation, how this has played out, and from the very beginning until now, I think that was out of order. That was not okay. That should have been handled differently. And the question is, how much power do we give the JEDI committee? What are their guidance? What is their guidance? What are they supposed to do? Who they're supposed to report to? I think that's another question that needs to be established for sure. And I agree with that. But this entire situation, we can't just blame the JEDI committee for the situation. That would be very unfair.
Councilmember McKinney and then Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Roberts, I feel like we live in the same world. We live in 2024. We live in Greenbelt. And everyone has a right to speak their mind, but there is a manner in which you should be able to be direct. So nobody is saying that you cannot voice your opinion, because we all need that. You are bringing expertise and experience that people do not have, and that is what is beneficial. So we all have to be able to share that, but there is a manner in which you speak to people. And maybe I'm just naive, or that's how I was taught, is that you want to speak to way and treat people the way that you want to be treated. And so there's just a way that you can still vocalize your opinion, ask questions, comment on things, but do it in a way that people still feel as though they're being respected and heard. And I would say that you deserve the same as well. But when you're not modeling that, that is what is coming through, is that I think from what I heard, and I don't think it's quite captured, when you have it written in paper, you're not able to see in a document the tone. And so what we're talking about is tone in a way that in which we talk to people.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, well, I don't.
I'm sorry?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I can, Mr. Roberts, I believe I have the floor right now. I don't think I can say it better than Ms. McKinney and some of the others have. But I would like to just reread again what these rules are, because Mr. Roberts seems to think that cutting him off is inappropriate. A member of council indulging in any language or conduct unbecoming a council member, which I think we unfortunately just saw demonstrated again this evening, as Ms. Niesel pointed out, shall be called to order by the presiding officer, and in such case, the offending member shall lose the floor and shall not proceed without the approval of a majority of members present. The council may, by a vote of not fewer than 6 members, expel a member from a meeting for disorderly conduct or the violation of council rules, which some of those things. So I think, Mr. Roberts, you as someone who's been on council for so long should know these rules better than anybody else. If you are engaging in conduct and behavior, which I think criticizing staff in such a way as you did is, yes, the floor should be taken from you, and I think this also demonstrates why those attempts were not enough and something more needed to happen, and which is why I brought this forward and again tried to do it in a public way, because this is public behavior and there is no HR for council. It is, we have to deal with it as a council. There is no other way to handle that, unlike an issue that came up, that would come up with the behavior of a staff member. That has a proper procedure and a proper process. For behavior of council, there is no other, besides elections, and there is no other way, there's no other process besides us taking care of it and attempting to. So what would I like to get out of this, Mr. Roberts? Why did I bring this up? What I would like to have this show as an example of the way that, to demonstrate that this behavior is not acceptable, and that the rest of council, I hope, will vote that we do not condone this behavior on your part, and that it is not okay to make comments about staff in that way.
Hey, I'd like to.
Every time.
I'd like to call the question, and I'll assume that if there is no second, then council is interested in hearing additional comments. So I did make a motion to call the question. I'll assume that if there's no second, then we'll allow the public to comment. We can debate for another half an hour. So is there a second? Okay, then it's council's will to take public comment. And I believe Mr. Rudd actually had his hand up first.
Bob Rudd, Greenbelt. I find myself in the unlikely position of needing to support Rodney Roberts. I actually watched this live as it happened. And I'm going to state up front, I disagree with most everything Rodney Roberts has run for election for in his whole time in Greenbelt. And in fact, over the last 25 years of his career, I have not voted for him.
You should speak into the microphone.
Going back to the first time I met him running as a rebel 30 some odd years ago, where he said he was only going to run twice and leave. Council member for life, as we've had numerous council members for life. Elected officials, in the course of their legal duties, have long been established a wide berth by American judicial and constitutional process in what they say while doing their legal duties. Again, I watched this as it happened that night, channel surfing, bumped into it. He was not out of line. He was not being abusive. He was stating something that he honestly felt. What I'm seeing here right now, what I've heard in the past, what I've seen in print, depending on what you believe in print, well, it's a little more than a star chamber. And if you're unfamiliar with the star chamber is, look for a legal book where he cannot face his accusers. He's faced with a nameless, faceless group that is attacking him, a group that is not official like any other board or committee or anything else sanctioned officially by the city with a charter in place for it. He epitomizes a different persona that is represented in Greenbelt. Many of the council here are college educated. Some may have more than college degrees. Rodney does not. He's an earnest blue-collar working man. I'll never take that away from him. We share the same roots. This shows, actually, you know, what's going on here represents a wokeism, a cancel culture that America has recently strongly repudiated on a national level. It's a new type of McCarthyism of the 21st century where if you disagree with the groupthink, well, this is what happens. This shows in, a little frustrated here.
Coming
If
up
there's
on
a
3.
problem, the electorate of Greenbelt need to address him. We can vote him out of office. He hasn't robbed the till. He hasn't insulted a governor and a county executive in the worst of times in a public forum.
Mr. Rudd,
He
you're
simply
3 minutes.
done what he did. I will ask for a little extension because I seldom come to the council, but if you want to cut me off.
No, it's only
Due
3 minutes right
process
now,
is an
Robert.
incredible aspect of American law. Council and the members.
Mr. Rudd,
doing this
yeah.
should not deny him
So
that. And
we've
frankly, I
got a
question
number of other
the
people.
motives of some of the council members that have brought this to place.
Please,
It's a
thank you very
political
much. Thank
thing and
you.
a political
Yeah.
statement. Thank you. Reject this.
Yeah, Robert.
Robert Snyder, Hillside Road. I was going to say a couple of things that Mr. Rudd, I think, could say it better than I could. So I'm just going to say diversity isn't just diversity of gender or race or ethnicity. Greenbelt should have diversity of thought, politics, expression, diversity of language, diversity of mannerisms. And that's what Rodney represents to me. Okay, so that's important. And he shouldn't be reprimanded or scolded because he maybe speaks a little harshly or, I mean, come on, you don't have all such sensitive ears in this day and age that some words are going to bother you and upset you or staff members. Come on. I've been in the school system. I've been to teachers association and union meetings where words much worse are spoken about people or situations. So I think it's ridiculous. And no, I also agree that DEI, there was an article in the paper the other day about the University of Michigan, which is one of the largest universities in the Big Ten, about 55,000 students. And they're going to dismantle most of the DEI programs. And Walmart is doing that. A lot of corporations and other universities are cutting it back quite a bit because they're realizing it's adding to division and animosity, and it's just not always positive like a lot of people think it is. And I appreciate your remarks too, Ms. Pope, on that accord. So I'm just grateful that we live in a world where not everybody is the same. Wouldn't it be awful, boring, if everybody spoke the same, looked the same, thought the same? Wouldn't that be boring? I hope you agree. It would be pretty boring, wouldn't it?
Let's see, online, Kathy, Lashandra. Kathy, are you there?
Yes, sorry, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I
Good
just
evening.
have a few comments regarding what has taken place, not only at this meeting, but through the entire process. I am going to first start by saying I feel Pro Tem Weaver should not have included her personal opinion in her opening statement. Sadly, the type of behavior that is being discussed has been going on for years by current and previous council members, and has been accepted, sadly. Any council member could be in the same situation as Rodney in the future, given what has transpired with the Jedi Committee. It is Mayor Jordan's responsibility to control the flow of the meeting. And that solely lies on your shoulders, Mayor. And in the past, on many occasions after the elections, and in emails to various council members over the years, I have suggested council hire a facilitator to facilitate these meetings and take part of that burden off of you, Mayor Jordan. And I feel that would be very, very beneficial for all, not only council, not only city employees that have to be there for the meetings, citizens as well. And I ask that that be considered and be done now, because this has really gotten way out of hand, folks. And this process that you all are going through now, that we're experiencing, is extremely unfair. I agree with Rodney, Silky, Rob Snyder, and Bob Rudd. This is just totally out of control, folks, and it needs to be stopped. Nothing against what the Jedi Committee has done. I've experienced similar committees in my 34-year career in the government, and quite honestly, I was not impressed then and really not impressed so far. So hopefully it will, in the end, ultimately be a better outcome for all involved. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Let's see, Mr. Orleans?
You'll get over it. Whoops.
It's been asked and unanswered before, who's on the JEDI action team. I presume the city manager, and no doubt the assistant city manager knows. I'm guessing that council knows. It was suggested earlier that several members of council went to several members of the JEDI action team, trying to comfort them or encourage them to respond to the comments allegedly made by Mr. Roberts. But I don't know, and I don't know anybody out here who knows. It's been asked before who's on the JEDI action team. There's been no answer to that question. Mr. Rudd, surprise, surprise, I agree with him tonight at least. This effectively is a star chamber. Council, it seems like 5 or 6 of members of council are ready to condemn, if not sanction, if not rebuke, but certainly not censure Mr. Roberts for the comments he made. The council rules, the spirit and the letter of the city charter mandate that members of council may not make critical comments of city employees privately, attempting to use the weight of their esteemed office for some nefarious purpose. It's precisely an open session at a regular meeting of council or at a work session that a member of council who has critical comments to make about city employees should make them. That's precisely the time to do so. And I agree with Bob Snyder, we should be adults in the room and be willing to accept a critical comment now and again. But in any event, the JEDI action team memo is unsigned other than by the fact that it's the JEDI action team making this complaint. We don't know if all the members of the we don't know who the members are, but we don't know if all of them agreed to this letter or one of them agreed to this letter, this memo. Council's ready to sanction Mr. Roberts based on anonymous complaints that no doubt you know the personnel suggesting that these are valid complaints, if not encourage them to make these complaints. But nonetheless, you may know, but we don't know. They are anonymous complaints, and whether they're true or not, and they're not, because I was here that meeting and I've read the transcript, the section of the transcript provided, he was making critical comments of city policy, not individuals. And council, if you're going to go ahead and sanction him tonight based on anonymous complaints, whom again, you may know the people making the complaints, some of them or all of them, then you are acting, demonstrating inappropriate behavior. And I'd like to say
Oh, yeah,
lastly, I've been back in
Mr.
town
Orleans, you have
20
3
years and
minutes.
10 months. I first met
Please.
Mr. Roberts. I'm concluding, Mr. Mayor.
Well,
2
please
seconds.
conclude then.
I first met Mr. Roberts 20 years
Mr. Orleans.
and 10 months
you're
ago.
over the
I
time
have
limit.
often found his comments and actions
So, Mr.
objectionable.
Orleans,
He's the least
Mr.
objectionable
Orleans,
of the
will
13
you
members
please
of
have a
council,
seat?
elected or selected.
Mr. Orleans. So let me just say this again. The action that we may or may not approve tonight is based on what happened during that particular session, but also based on what's happened in our executive sessions, what's happened over time, but specifically what happened in the executive session when we discussed this issue. So I'd like to ask Mr. Summerone, though, to talk a bit about the about the memo. Can you speak to some of the comments that have come up about the memo and the composition of the JEDI committee and the interactions that you've developed?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you're asking about process and the memo. The team followed the process as best as they could based on what's laid out around these concerns. We followed the process as advised, includes the advice of legal counsel that the complaint was made to me. It's my responsibility to raise the issue to my superiors, which is all of council. And I did so, and that memo was shared with all of council and had been discussed in a closed session, as council members have made reference to. So from a process perspective, that's as best as we can do, because the administration has no oversight of any council member. There's nothing for us to hold any council member accountable. That is exclusively the responsibility of council and the voters. So we follow the process as best as we could, which is to raise it to council. So that's what we've done. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's helpful.
In terms of the composition, we have released the record that was made available per an MPIA request to the individuals who submitted the request, and we've shared that document with all of council. I forward that via email. So the identity of the JEDI team, as it was constituted per the request of August 1st, has been shared with council. The formation of the JEDI team came out as a direct result of the audit, the phase 1 audit done by Tribacy Group, where council and the public were presented the findings of the phase 1 audit. Council tasked me as the administration to find ways of resolving the issues, the conflicts that were identified in phase 1. So the team met. We've been meeting over several months to outline a process and a strategy to address the conflicts that were presented in that report. That includes a multifaceted approach. We talked about the learning journey, the top-down approach, the bottom-up approach, and several organizational development strategies that we would embark on to address policy issues, culture issues, organizational development issues. The JEDI team is critical to that strategy of becoming a better organization, a more welcoming and inclusive environment. They are a pillar in the bottom-up approach of having staff collectively review issues, collectively provide recommendations and advisory to myself and the senior management team on how we can be the best organization we can be. And I'll close out to say that I feel incredibly lucky to have such a strong, committed team that wants to see not just the best for our organization, but our residents, and work hard to deliver for our residents. And I think our employees deserve a respectful, dignified workplace, and I would work hard to ensure that we do that for our teams while also respecting the boundaries of our work.
Do appreciate that. Mayor Pro Tem, so can you just quickly, in formulating this motion, I was wondering if you could also speak to consultations. You talked to legal counsel,
I
did you not?
Yes. Yes, I did. I did have a conversation with our city solicitor before putting this forward. I based what I wrote up on the JEDI Action Team memo. And yes, it is my perspective. I felt that there were, I did not feel the conversations that had in other settings demonstrated that Mr. Roberts understood the impact of his words. And I felt that something more needed to be done as requested by the JEDI Action Team, which I would remind, there is no other process for this. There is not a way for staff members to push back on council members when they feel that, for example, when somebody says, and if you're dumb enough to take that, then you are, or let your mechanics know how to do the job. If they're not willing to learn, then get somebody that is willing to learn, because that's the job of the mechanic to learn, which I could seeing that as being a threat on a job. And I can absolutely understand how someone could feel that that was a direct attack on them. And I would like to point out to Mr. Orleans that, in fact, our standing rules that we've been referencing, the other one highlighted by the JEDI Action Team, says that members of council shall not raise personnel matters pertaining to alleged improper performance or conduct of any city employees or council appointees, meaning boards and committees, at a public council meeting. Any concern about the conduct or performance of any city employees or council appointees shall be brought to the attention of the city manager, or a closed session of council may be requested to discuss the personnel matter. That is city employees and council appointees. So actually, Mr. Orleans has it exactly backwards, that this is not the setting for that sort of thing, that if there are concerns and complaints about city staff, those go to the city manager. Those do not get brought up in a public meeting.
Yes. Point of order. Yes, Mr. Roberts, please go ahead. There you go.
Nobody, yeah, it's just the microphone not working.
It's working now, though.
Is it working? Okay. God, can't remember what I was going to say now. The point is that, well, go on to the next speaker out there, and I'll remember what I was going to say.
Coming up. We're coming up on 9 o'clock, and I am not interested in debating this for another 30 minutes or an hour. You know, I thought about it very carefully, and I don't think any council members' opinions are being swayed one way or the other.
I have a question. I just have a question. I remember what I wanted to say. I have a question of the city manager, and I'd like to know why I was not invited, not let in on the executive session or sessions that the rest of the council, and I believe Councilmember Miesel was also not invited to those meetings. Why were there executive sessions that some especially me, they said they were talking about a personnel issue involving me. Why was I not invited to those meetings?
I do not believe there's been an executive session where you have not been invited.
Well, there obviously was, because you said it was another meeting, and you told me in person that there was meetings of the city council, and Ms. Pope said that there was a meeting.
You were
of the
present
city
at those
council.
meetings. You were present at those meetings, Mr. Roberts.
Until you walked out.
Yeah, you were present at those meetings, Mr. Roberts.
The first night that we had that meeting, I talked to Ms. Miesel, and she said that she had been left out on that meeting.
There was no meeting.
There
You were
was.
in the meetings.
Well,
Mr.
how
Roberts.
did you come up with this finding?
I wrote it,
How did
and
that, you know?
I wrote it up, and I
Well,
talked to the
there
city solicitor.
obviously was a meeting, and there were meetings of the JEDI committee, which have to be reported, and they're not reported. Why is there no minutes? And why did I get no information? All the information I asked of that would help me defend myself. Why was that not provided to me?
I'm not aware of any meeting happening where you were not invited to. If you're asking about documentation that you requested email correspondences between myself and council related to this matter. You said you would put your request in writing and that you would submit an MPIA request. I cannot release communications with council unless there's a public information request. Upon the receiving a request, we will fulfill the
Member of
request.
City Council, you can release any information you need to me. I don't have to put in requests for information. If I ask you directly for information, that's enough that you should give me that information.
It's not our policy to release communications between council members on a matter without.
Council members do not have to file, FOIAs, freedom of,
I'm going to
For
call the
information.
question again.
You are correct, council. Council is the ultimate authority and can direct me to release those records. If council as a body directs me to, I will release those records to you.
Thank you. I'm calling the question. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of closing discussion and voting on the proposal, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
It appears to be 5-2. Do you want it? Mr. Roberts and Ms. Pope, you voted against closing question, calling,
Yeah, I know it's late, and I know we need to get through the agenda, but on the
Really
other
do.
hand, this is a very serious issue. I don't think we ever had dealt with something like this before. I mean, we've never have gotten this far, so
The only,
if someone else feels like they want to make a comment, I believe that they should be able to make
Yeah.
that comment.
Because we voted, we need to call the question. Mayor Pro Tem, will you read the motion again, please?
Up the right page. I move for a public rebuke of Mr. Rodney Roberts for conduct unbecoming a council member, including making disparaging and insulting comments about city staff in a public meeting and negatively impacting the morale and productivity of staff and the overall environment in which the city functions.
Okay, and Ms. Pompey had seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Call.
Let's do a roll call then.
Ms. McKinney?
Yes.
Ms. Pompey?
Yes.
Ms. Pope? Ms. Niesel?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
No.
Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay. So, as was discussed, we do need to look at the council rules and codify a process, put that in place if this should ever happen again. Once again, I'll say that this is a personnel matter, a violation of council rules, which should be handled not in public, just as is the case with a employee matter. You don't address it in an open session. You talk about it, you deal with it, and the outcome you would read. So at some point in the near future, I or one of my peers on council should propose a process that we can incorporate.
Just a question.
Mr. Roberts.
Why are we calling this a personnel issue? Because personnel issues are not dealt with in public. They never are. No employee has to go through this. None.
That's what I just said. It should not be done in an open session.
Why are we calling
An
this a
outcome can be
personnel issue?
discussed.
Then why was I reprimanded in public when no other employee would be treated that way?
I disagree with Mayor Jordan's characterization of this as a personnel matter. I don't believe this is a personnel matter. And I think clearly that, yeah, so you can disagree with that, but I just want to state for the record that I do not believe this is a personnel matter, and that I actually think that after having some conversations in closed sections that you were involved in, Mr. Roberts, that was clearly not enough, and it needed to be have a public forum for comment.
So it's unfortunate that we've gone through this. Let's please move on to the other agenda items that need to be dealt with. And I hate to do this, but I'd like to do a proclamation quickly, because tomorrow is Human Rights Day. So I'll just share this. Whereas Human Rights Day is observed annually by the international community to commemorate the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations General Assembly in 1948, and whereas human rights are the common thread that unites us all to promote peace and stability, and whereas human rights can empower individuals and communities to create a better future by embracing, trusting in their full potential, by acknowledging human rights as a pathway to the world we desire, we can strive for a more peaceful, equal, and sustainable society. And whereas this year, the 2024 theme is Our Rights, Our Future, Right Now, it's a call to acknowledge the importance and relevance of human rights in our everyday lives. Now, therefore, I, Emmett V. Jordan, by the powers vested in me by the public and by City Council, do by proclaim December 10th, tomorrow, as Human Rights Day in the city of Greenbelt. We call upon all of our residents to uphold human rights by addressing injustices and ensuring that everyone can live with dignity and respect. So the reason why I presented this was actually an initiative that Eleanor Roosevelt played a pivotal role just in terms of creating this Universal Declaration of Human Rights. She laid the foundation for what would become this Human Rights Day. As the chair of the UN Human Rights Commission, she dedicated over 3,000 hours to contentious deliberations, skillfully navigating complex political tensions to define universal human rights that would transcend national boundaries and cultural differences. So I think with everything going on in the world right now, it's important for us to take a little time tomorrow to reflect on human rights and what they mean to us here in Greenbelt. So I appreciate your indulgence on that. Let's move on to the agenda. So next up, we actually have an item which deals with, it's item number 11.
Do we need to do?
Actually, we need
do
administrative
the
reports. And actually, we need, there's several closed session statements that need to be.
Yeah, I
read
think those
into.
need to be first. Okay. So I move that the minutes of tonight's meeting reflect that council met in closed session on Thursday, June 27th, 2024 at 7:33 p.m. in the municipal building and virtually via Zoom, municipal building library and virtually via Zoom. Council held this closed meeting in accordance with section 3-305, 1, 7, 8, and 10 of the general provisions article of the annotated code of the public general laws of Maryland. 1, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. 2, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice on a legal matter. 3, to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. And 4, to discuss public security if the public body determines that public discussion would constitute a risk to the public or to public security, including 1, the deployment of fire and police services and staff, and 2, the development and implementation of emergency plans. The purpose of this meeting is 1, to address personnel matters over which this body has jurisdiction, 2, to consult with counsel and staff about pending or potential litigation, and 3, to discuss the deployment of fire staff. Vote to close sessions. Ms. Niesel, yes. Ms. McKinney, yes. Ms. Pompey, yes. Ms. Pope was absent. Mr. Roberts, yes. Ms. Weaver, yes. Mayor Jordan, yes. The following staff members were in attendance: Josue Samaron, City Manager, and Todd Pounds, Legal Counsel. Other individuals in attendance: Chief Tommy Ray, Greenbelt Fire Department. Council took the following action: voted to authorize filing an injunction and temporary restraining order to prevent fire department staffing changes from going into effect. And I think that's supposed to be 6-0 if Ms. Pope was absent. So that's the motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second. Oh, well, I shouldn't be. I wasn't
So,
there.
yeah, if you want,
Second.
Ms. Pompey is seconded. Madam Clerk, do you need to call the roll?
Ms. McKinney?
Sorry, yes.
Pompey? Yes. Ms. Pope?
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't
There.
I wasn't there.
Well, I also wasn't there for one of them. I can vote
Sorry.
for the second one. So yes for this one.
Okay. Mr. Roberts? Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Motion carries. Okay, and there's another one.
Yes.
There's two more.
I move that the minutes of, I move that the minutes of tonight's meeting reflect that council met in closed session on Monday, July 8th, 2024 at 7:02 PM in the Municipal Building Library. Council held this closed meeting in accordance with Section 3-305B1, 8, and 10 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of the Public General Laws of Maryland. 1, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. 2, to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation, and to discuss public security. And 3, to discuss public security if the public body determines that public discussion would constitute a risk to the public or to public security, including 1, the deployment of fire and police services and staff, and 2, the development and implementation of emergency plans. The purpose of this meeting was to discuss options for responding to staffing changes in fire staff at Greenbelt and Berwyn Heights stations, including recruitment and retention options. Voting to close session, Ms. Niesel was absent. Ms. McKinney, yes. Ms. Pompey, yes. Ms. Pope, yes. Mr. Roberts, yes. Ms. Weaver, yes. Mayor Jordan, yes. The following staff members were in attendance: Josue Salmaron, City Manager, no other individuals, and council took no actions during this meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember McKinney is seconded. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. McKinney? Yes. Ms. Pompey?
Yes.
Ms. Pope?
Yes.
Ms. Niesel?
Recused?
Mr. Roberts? Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I thank you. And the third one.
One more. I move that the minutes of tonight's meeting reflect that council met in closed session Monday, October 28th, 2024 at 10:28 PM in council chambers. Council held this closed meeting in accordance with Section 3-305B1, 8, and 10 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of the Public General Laws of Maryland. 1, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. And 2, to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. And 3, to discuss public security if the public body determines that the public discussion would constitute a risk to the public or to public security, including 1, the deployment of fire and police services and staff, and 2, the development and implementation of emergency plans. Vote to close session. Ms. Niesel was absent for the vote, but present for the session. Ms. McKinney, yes. Ms. Pompey, yes. Ms. Pope, yes. Mr. Roberts, no. Ms. Weaver, yes. Mayor Jordan, yes. Also in attendance was Josue Salmaron, City Manager. No other individuals were in attendance. Actions during this session: authorize the city manager to pursue an appeal of the lawsuit related to fire department staffing changes. 6-1, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember McKinney is seconded. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. McKinney?
Yes.
Ms. Pompey?
Yes.
Ms. Pope?
Yes.
Ms. Niesel?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts? Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, thank you so much. A lot of executive sessions dealing with public safety, fire, and EMS. City Manager Salmaron, would you give us an administrative update, please?
Yes, continuing on the topic of the fire department, I'll start off with that. We were in communication with Chief Green last week about upcoming staffing changes. Effective December 29th, the city will now have a paramedic ambulance 24/7. That's beginning December 29th. We will also have a second peak unit that will be available at the same hours that they are now, which is from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. So it's an upgrade from what we currently have, which is 2 peak units running from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week. So it is a welcome improvement. Obviously not the full staffing that we had hoped for and we had led to believe as a temporary summer staffing plan. We're now entering the winter season.
Our legal efforts are moving forward.
We have filed for a motion to amend to include new evidence that we were able to gather. That includes the city providing funding for our 2 local, the Greenbelt Fire Station and the Berwyn Heights Fire Station, to support incentives to get more volunteers to cover shifts. That have resulted in positive improvement, particularly with Berwyn Heights, have been able to increase staffing to respond to emergencies in Greenbelt. So that's the new evidence that we're including in amended motion. We have also filed and appealed or a motion for reconsideration and an appeal to the state on the matter.
Mr. Samarone, I'd like to set up a meeting with Chief Ray and the leadership of Fire Company 835 before the holidays in the next week. Just check in and talk with them. I guess we can have 3 members of council there without.
I'll be sure to coordinate that in the coming week, especially because we have $70,000 that we need to encumbered through a contract and MOU that council had previously approved as the disbursement for the volunteer fire department. So I've been judicious to release the money as appropriate with proposals. So we dispersed a total of $30,000.
Thank you very much. There's some other items.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We have launched a CRM, a customer relationship management application using Salesforce. So we're now on Salesforce. John's been leading the effort. He's here, and John's proud, and this is his baby. But we can save the speech for a later time when we schedule the workforce development, the economic development work session. But we're happy to announce that we've launched that. CARES has been incredibly busy supporting residents, first with the turkey giveaway. I supported 100 residents, and then later in the month, they assisted with the holiday food boxes for 250 families, individuals. This is particularly relevant as the Greenville News Reviews did a great story on how we're supporting our residents through our food subsidy programs, and council being committed to supporting our residents through 2026 with ARPA funding and allocating the over $200,000 for food subsidy programs. We've finalized our FY 2024 audit that has been formally submitted to the state. So we're excited to check that box off. We held what I believe a successful District 22 legislative dinner. I hope the council is happy with the outcome. I received very, very good feedback from the event, and we look forward to next year's. I think New Carlton may be hosting. I might be committed them now publicly that they're hosting. We had the COG hosted a active shooter exercise, another emergency response tabletop. So Chief and I attended the event. It was I understand the first time we had both law enforcement, first responders, and executive meeting together and having tabletop. It was well done. Finally, we recently received 3 grant awards that Brian Kennel and Carrie have been leading to secure resources for our cybersecurity. So just Friday, we received word that we received $81,000 to do security assessment, network security improvements, and managed detection software, which detects devices trying to connect our network. So we're excited for those grant opportunities, especially as coming at a where we're getting financial pressure. So that's one thing that we will be able to incorporate into our budget through outside resources, network security. I have plenty more that I could report on, but I'll take questions that you may have.
Oh, thank you so much. There's so much going on. I know that several council members have reported on problems with pipe breaks and whatnot in the city. Water in Spring Hill Lake, but also previously a number of breaks in GHI in Old Greenbelt as well.
Yes, I have received those complaints and issues. We followed up with our partners at WWSC. Many of those have been taken care of. We are having a major water main break right now in Cherrywood Lane. As I came to this meeting, Thomas and David from WSSI were very responsive to our request this morning. They have scheduled that water main break for first thing in the morning tomorrow morning. We don't know how extensive it is because on the surface there are at least 4 points where the water is coming out, and the midsection and on lanes essentially is across the entire road. So the team's not going to know how bad that main break is until they open up the road. So we'll know in the morning how bad that break is. Also, hopefully there are other more pressing water main breaks. There are several in the system right now, and they're trying to address them all. And you know, when temperatures drop and we get that freezing and thawing effect on the ground, the pipes do not like shifting ground underneath, and that leads to the main breaks.
Any other questions from council? Comments? Okay, well, let's go ahead and move to the legislation section of the agenda. Item number 11 is an ordinance for the council of the city of Greenbelt amending Chapter 8 elections of the city code to add Section 8-14 vacancies on council to implement procedures for filling vacancies on the council relative to the next regular election and to provide the voters of the city to participate in this process. And this is an item for first reading. So would one of the council members like to offer this for first reading? We won't discuss it. Actually, you know, this process, making changes in the charter, it's serious business. So we've talked about it in a couple of work sessions. We posted the information in the Greenbelt News Review. And after the first reading, we will have a hearing. But hopefully there'll be plenty of opportunities for people to kind of weigh in on this and the next agenda item regarding the council vacancies. So it's a process, but it's designed, geared so that people, everybody knows what's about to happen. That's important. Council member like to introduce that? Mr. Roberts, would you like to introduce that?
No, I don't, but I'm wondering, why are we doing this now before we have the discussion about what actually needs to be changed in the charter?
We have had those discussions, Mr. Roberts. We've had at least, have we had 2 work sessions on it? We've had 2 work sessions on it already.
There's been no regular meeting, I thought we had a task force and there was gonna be, other opportunities outside of council meetings for residents to take part and all this kind of stuff. Why are we, doing this?
I think I understand. So you're talking about the broader charter review, but this is a specific issue that I think we knew well before we started that process was something that needed to be addressed. So this is, I don't think, so that process, Mr. Solomon, help me with the timeline, that's supposed to be.
Soon, but it's not now.
The mayor and I discussed this earlier today with the city clerk. We're putting out the request for applications this week, and we'll advertise it next week as well. The process that we are adopting is one that already exists, and that's where residents apply through the advisory boards and commissions process. Council receives those applications, interview the candidates, and then makes the appointment. So we're following that process as we discussed during the time that council adopted this initiative. So the task force. We'll put out that application this week, and the council has interviews scheduled for January 6th, Bonita. It's coming up. It's one of those dates where you have interviews scheduled. So we'll try whatever we can to get scheduled for that week or that interview session. We have residents who already expressed interest, and we'll forward those along to you. Did I answer your question, Ms. Weaver?
I think that anything that's in the pipeline now should be waiting until we have the larger discussion of the charter.
Well, I suppose if we introduce this for first reading, that could come up in discussion at the second reading. Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, I think we haven't actually made a motion, so I move for first reading an ordinance of the Council of the City of Greenbelt amending Chapter 8 elections of the City Code to add Section 8-14 vacancies on council to implement procedures for filling vacancies on the council relative to the next regular election and to provide the voters of the city to participate in the process.
Well, thank you. And it's for first reading, so we don't even vote on the motion. It's just introduced. So that would bring us to the sister resolution that's related to the ordinance, and that would be item number 12, Charter Amendment Resolution of the Council of the City of Greenbelt to amend Section 32, vacancies on council, to change the procedure for filling vacancies on council by following procedures in newly enacted 8-14 of Chapter 8 of the City Code, which is the ordinance that we just introduced. This is for first reading also. I'll read the additional information here. During the regular meeting on November 18th, the council discussed how to fill vacancies on city council. They considered whether to address this issue through a charter amendment or by updating the election code. The Board of Elections recommended that the procedure be outlined in the election code to facilitate future amendments. In response to the suggestion, the council directed staff to draft a charter amendment that references the election code and incorporates the board's recommendations directly into the code. So on January 13th, council will hold a public hearing prior to the second reading and adoption of this ordinance to gather input from the residents.
I move for first reading the charter amendment resolution of the Council of the City of Greenbelt to amend Section 32, vacancies on council, to change the procedures for filling vacancies of the council by following procedures in newly enacted Section 8-14 of Chapter 8 of the City Code.
Okay, there you have it. So this would come up hopefully on January the 13th, public hearing and discussion on the ordinance and the resolutions related to amending the sections on filling council vacancies. So that's going to bring us to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 13, legislative issue tracking. Greenbelt City Council created a planning framework during the council retreat sessions conducted in January and February of 2024. This framework has also guided the development of legislative priorities discussed in August of 2024. Council is committed to moving forward with these priorities in FY 2025 to effectively monitor and share progress with residents on these legislative priorities. A detailed tracking tool needs to be developed and regularly discussed and updated. This tool should list, at minimum, the legislative issue, council members that referred the issue, the current status within the legislative process, next steps, and timelines or target completion dates. The tool should track issues at the city, county, and state level and should help inform work sessions, scheduling, and council meeting agenda topics. A summary of the status of these priorities can be included in the regular stakeholder meeting document that is included in regular council meeting packet. Additionally, legislative priorities can be discussed quarterly in coordination with the city manager's quarterly report. Councilmember McKinney, you requested that this item be placed on the agenda. So do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Sure. I think this can hopefully be a brief discussion. We are, as council, we are really addressing and talking about a lot of different issues that are in our community that our residents bring to us. And I think staff and Mr. Salmeron do a good job of putting together and making sure that the upcoming meeting schedules are in all of our regular meeting packets. But I think we can do a little bit more to show how we're tracking against all the different priorities that we had identified in our planning framework, as well as the things that were identified even in the city budget, so that when we're putting together a schedule, we're not necessarily putting together a schedule. We are being more strategic in how we are putting that schedule out there. And so that the public also knows where certain things are in the process of how they're being addressed. I think sometimes this is a great example of something, we talk about it and then there's no document of, Mr. Roberts actually had brought up, did we have a meeting about this? We did. So we just have to have a document that says, okay, this was the topic. This is the last time we talked about it. This is where it is in the process, and this is the next step. So it's simply a way to keep us better organized and more transparent to the community as well as ourselves for talking about a lot of these issues. So what I put together was simply a working document. I love, feedback and comment from council as well as others, is if that captures enough detail that keeps us organized and transparent moving forward.
Very good, very good. I have to admit, I've been a little bit lax. I was working, when I spoke to you last week, I was sort of looking at the template that you put together, which is excellent. But I saw a couple of things that maybe needed to be shifted around. I actually have a draft that I could throw up on the screen if you want to look at it. Also, on Wednesday, we'll be talking a bit about council goals and whatnot as we're talking to Mr. Salmeron, and perhaps we can actually, with other council members having an opportunity to weigh in between now and Wednesday, perhaps we can actually bring this up. Let me see if I can slap this up on the screen. I don't know if this is going to work. see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so just in terms of filling this out, I included a few items and moved a few things around. You know, if you go back to the state part, the final template talks about the speed camera piece should be at the state level. Juvenile reform is at the state level. Opposing the maglev and the Beltway expansion is something, along with this initiative for municipal land use authority and the homeowners tax credit. Those are all things that we talked about on the state level, on the county level. So basically, I just took a look at the list and, you know, put my own take on it. So I think between now and Wednesday, we can add a few more things, and maybe that'll be helpful.
I'd like to just add one more comment. I think this is also a way for us to keep track of when all of us are hearing different things from the community at different points. Either we're talking to people in the community, or we're getting emails separately of things that we as a body need to address. And so if we can have one document that also collects all of those different issues that residents are raising, this is an effort to try to do that as well, so that people feel as though we are making sure that we're addressing some of the concerns that they bring up.
Excellent. So this is an information item. I don't think we need to vote on it, but let's, if there's some additional things you want to weigh in on.
I just wondered, and as we move forward with the CRM, if this is something that can live inside there, just as by means of trying to centralize everything so that it's not a bunch of working Excel documents, but instead living in one space.
Maybe the CRM, maybe is a shared in share space, SharePoint. I'm not sure, but it should be something that all of us, including that we have access to and can just reference easily. So, I don't know. CRM.
There's a variety of tools that can be used. We have Salesforce. We also have the Monday.com platform, and we have SharePoint. In SharePoint, we attempted to do something similar almost a year ago with creating a task list on SharePoint. So we're open to what's going to be the best tool that most of us are going to use. I think the tool is only as good as we use it. So whatever tool that we want to adopt, you know, we'll adapt or adjust to that. Because I think what's more important is what tool is readily available to us that will be used regularly. I think all those platforms are great. John's got me on Salesforce, and it's been a while since I've been on Salesforce. And actually, John has created projects within Salesforce. So there are all these projects and tasks associated, and it links to communications and the tasks. So it's neat. Salesforce is powerful. Right now, we've only have 4 licenses for Salesforce. We anticipate growing in that space, particularly the constituent services. I'm looking to have a case management system built into the Salesforce system as a CRM. That's just one tool. It's different from what CARES use. CARES has a full-fledged case management system, but that's unique to CARES, and what they do is so do the CIT. Anyway, there's plenty of tools. What's going to be the tool that we can all stick to, and it'll be, I don't want to say steep learning curve, but something that's easy.
Easy to access, easy to kind of share and to update. So let's leave it to staff to make a couple of proposals, and then we can kind of look and see what really works. Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem.
A quick comment, because I appreciate Ms. McKinney for you putting this together, and I like the line for a council lead. I think sometimes what happens is there's so many things that we're trying to pay attention to, and I think it would be helpful to have on these issues, maybe not every single one, but a few of them that have that 1 or 2 council members who are sort of paying extra attention to it and making sure we're keeping things moving, because I think that can be a challenge when we're trying to do so many things, and having somebody that can, take things on in terms of reminding staff. It's like, oh yeah, we need to do that, or have we gotten a referral back from the advisory board that was looking at X legislation or whatever. So I think that's I appreciate. I think we'll have to decide how that works, but I think that's a good column to have.
Okay. Hey, let's move on to item number 15, which is authorizing the city manager to execute contract for website redesign and services. And let's see, this is from Chandria Andrews on the 5th, a couple of days ago. On October the 7th, we've been talking about the website for a long time. It's been a sticking point for me and for a lot of our residents. But on October the 7th, the City of Green Bed issued a request for proposals, an RFP for website redesign. We received over 78 bids from local, national, and international companies by the deadline. Proposals were evaluated based on the following criteria. The firm and team experience, 15% qualifications from of the project team, 25% project approach and schedule, 35%. Project cost 15% and references 10%. After reviewing all of the proposals, we shortlisted 3 finalists, 64 Robots, Aptigee, and Civic Plus. Our website redesign review team, which included the city manager, assistant city manager, public information officer, interim director of IT, city clerk, and deputy city clerk. These interviews were conducted with each of these 3 finalists, and after careful evaluation, the team selected Civic Plus, a provider with over 25 years of expertise delivering technology solutions to governments. Notably, Civic Plus serves many municipalities in Prince George's County and over 100,000 government users nationwide. The website redesign will integrate a suite of products that work seamlessly to improve staff efficiency and ensure top-tier service for all visitors. The project is scheduled to kick off in late December and is expected to be completed by June of 2025. Staff recommends that council authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Civic Plus for website redesign project and services, a total cost of $44,878.99. Ms. Andrews, welcome.
Good evening, Council. How are you?
Well, hanging in there.
Well, I'm glad to be here tonight to discuss we're finally updating our website redesign. It's been a long time coming. I just want to say that we have heard you, Council, and we have heard our residents' concerns, and we are ensuring that those things that we heard from you are going to be incorporated within our website. One of the things that I'm very excited about is the search. We're going to have the predictive text search, which will make things easier, and also it'll be incorporated with our Muni code and also agenda management, and so it's people can find the things that they're looking for. So I'm excited to be a part of the process and the team that has joined me on this journey.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's something that's really needed. I guess our current website has been with us for 10 or 12 years, and the search just does not, it doesn't work. For me, maybe for other people, it doesn't work. So I'm just wondering, the time frame, the implementation, I mean, this is no small task. About how many pages the current website do we have?
Well, currently we have over 10,000 pages, and within the process, Civic Plus will work with us to pare down some of those pages so that we can make things easier and accessible for our residents to find in 1, 2, 3 clicks. Hopefully less, closer to the 1.
So that's
and
the standard.
just so you know, we do have the account executive who's been waiting to speak with us. She has like 5 to 10 minutes possible to go over what is to be expected within the process.
Okay. Hey, Ms. Pope, do you want to hold your question until we hear from the Okay, can someone kind of promote them? She's in? Oh, it's Liz Vesta. Hey, good evening.
Here. Good evening, everyone. How are we?
We're good. We're good. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for holding on.
Absolutely.
So excited to hear this, how the project is going to roll out.
Absolutely. In the essence of time, what I really want to take a few minutes to do today is highlight what your residents can expect moving forward with one of our Civic Plus websites. So I will start sharing my screen here and walk you through a current partner of Annapolis, Maryland, in the RFP that you all had put out, or the city staff had put out to for response. Annapolis, Maryland was one of your inspirational folks that is partnering with Civic Plus today. So at the very top, what we're going to do is start with the personalized experience that you can expect with Civic Plus. You can see here that we are asking your residents to create a website account. Now, this is optional, of course, but it allows them to be able to sign in, create preferences on notifications, information, and so on, in order for them to continue to engage with you the way that you would like them to. Moving down the screen here, you can see that we have these mega menu structures at the very top of our screen. I'm just hovering over these words here and seeing 1 to 2 layers deep into the website, following up with Chandria's wonderful explanation of that 1 to 2 click methodology. I think we all know at this point that we operate from our cell phones, and if we have to spend a little bit extra time searching for something, it gets a bit frustrating. To highlight a couple of other navigational tools, I'm going to pop down to our graphic buttons here, showcasing that we are allowing your residents to find the other more popular items on your site in 1 to 2 clicks. Annapolis had made a design choice to do an extra set of those buttons below the original graphic buttons. I'm going to highlight that integrated search that Chandria mentioned earlier. So as I type in the word permit, you'll see that there are suggested resources, but if I'm not finding exactly what I'm looking for, I can go into a more robust advanced search option. As you can see, I can search the site content, and as she was mentioning just a moment ago, I would be able to toggle over and search within your municipal code powered by MuniCode, which is a Civic Plus product. Alongside of that, you would be able to search within the agenda meeting management tool alongside of the municipal code as well. Your residents will know no different. They will come to your site looking for one thing and be able to utilize all of the products that you have today and find what they are looking for. I could also do a more advanced search if that was relevant to me. I'm going to move back to their homepage here and continue to scroll down. They do have a news carousel highlighting some of those more recent press releases or news items on a rotating carousel, making sure that what's most important or what's hot and going on in the city of Annapolis, but now going to be the city of Greenbelt, is going to be showcased right on that homepage. As we continue to move down, you can see that they have added their news flash items, so adding links to those press releases and things, and the calendar module side by side. So maybe there's something that I see on the calendar that I also need to reference over here. This is a design choice that they made, and this is all customizable for you all, bringing your vision to life, really. Before I jump into this calendar module for just a moment, I am going to continue down the homepage just to show you how dynamic it really can be. They have chosen to incorporate their social media feeds. These are live. I could click in and watch their council meeting if I would like to, pop over to their Instagram feed. You don't have to do any extra work to make sure that this is coming up on the site as you post new content. It will automatically be pulled in from those feeds. They also have utilized another tool within our content management system, posting a YouTube video from their YouTube account and adding some additional links here as well to those other videos. And for one last scroll, they are giving some extra attention with large tiles to a couple of things that seem to be of most importance in the city of Annapolis. I am going to jump into one of our modules here just to show you what the consistencies and functionality are moving forward. Everyone loves a good calendar. This is a list view. There are 3 different views. My preference is the month view, so I'm going to come here. You can see, of course, that we are going to be category based. You could have as many or as few categories as you choose, making sure that you divvy up either responsibility or information to those categories. This also reiterates the personalized option for your residents to select the things that are most important to them as these categories ebb and flow through your partnership with Civic Plus. Now, what I can do here is I can click on a meeting, I can get some additional details here, scroll and find out the information that I need to. What's really wonderful and very powerful about this tool is that it is intuitive. So once you post something to the calendar, There are a couple of prompts that the content management system will give to you, and that is a few things is like you've posted a calendar. Do you want to attach the agenda to that calendar? Would you like to notify your residents who have signed up for information on council meetings and so on? So you don't have to duplicate any work. You will have a streamlined process along with some really great tools that your residents will buy into here. Now, the second thing I want to highlight is that I could subscribe to iCalendar and I could push it to my own personal calendar within my phone or work emails. And then popping into another module inclusive with the content management system is our Notify Me module. This is the key to good communication for your residents. What I am able to do here is go in, add my email address or phone number, should you choose to turn on text messaging, and go down this line and choose what's most important to me. So when you post new content to the website, the system will prompt you and say, you have subscribers to this. Would you like to send them a message to let them know of XYZ that you're posting? Again, it is a category-based system. You can see that they have divvied these up between modules, making sure that everything has a place. And this is completely customizable and true to you all at the City of Greenbelt. To give you an insight, I'll stop sharing my screen. As to the process, we are going to be very hands-on with you when it comes to the migration of your current content onto our content management system, bringing your vision board to life with a star-studded group of people, including art directors, project managers, content consultants, and graphic designers. You will not be alone in this, and our trainers are also second to none. So once you are trained on the content management system, your teams will be alerted to train us back, if you will, and ensure that you are ready to launch your brand new website with us. The very last point that I would like to make with your partnership with Civic Plus is that you will also have a client success manager partnered with you all throughout your journey with Civic Plus. Is someone who gets in touch with you on a regular cadence to ensure not only your happiness with the solution that you're using, but to make sure that you are getting everything you need out of the partnership that you've chosen. I think that that is it for my presentation tonight in the essence of time. Thank you very much.
No, thank you so much. Very, very thorough overview. I have a couple of thoughts, a couple of questions. The Annapolis example is quite beautiful, but here in Greenbelt, we think that the surroundings here and the photographs are even more beautiful than Annapolis. So, but I was wondering about accessibility for people that might have visual challenges or and whatnot. So how there's a certain standard, and Mayor Pro Tem knows this so well, but can you talk just briefly about what sort of accommodations or how will the site be more accessible than it is now, just for people with visual and other sorts of challenges?
Absolutely, Mayor Jordan. Thank you for that question. It is top of mind across the board with the recent DOJ ruling as to the American for Disabilities Act of 1990. They have made the statement that your digital landscape is just as important as your physical landscape, and you should be adhering to all disabilities, no matter if they're visual to us or not. With that being said, Civic Plus has taken a large amount of time to ensure that all of our solutions are up to that DOJ standard, which is WCAG 2.1A and AA. So all of our solutions as they sit today do meet that accessibility standard. In your seat, you have also had a partnership with Moncito, now called Optimize, and that partnership allows you to be ADA compliant to WCAG 2.2 standards. You already have that partnership. It is a Civic Plus product, and what you'll be able to do is use those concurrently to continue to put out accessible content and serve the entire community as it is today.
Okay. And City Manager, I have a couple more questions, but do you want? So I was just wondering. So and Ms. Andrews also. So the proposal is for a 1-year contract, or is it for several years or 1 year? And I'm just wondering about updates and upgrades and whatnot.
Sure, I'll jump into some of that. On the ADA question, one of the reasons we picked Civic Plus is the website platform itself is ADA compliant. So the additional service, it's something that we already have now, and that's to make our current website or sister current website to become ADA compliant. So Granicus meets that standard by virtue of having this Civic Plus component. So, but the website itself, the platform itself, and Liz, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Civic Plus website module meets that ADA standard. So there's some redundancy with both products. So that's on that question. Is that right, Liz?
I wouldn't say that there is a redundancy. Within the core solution itself, yes, you will be ADA compliant and meeting the standard that the DOJ has ruled for us. However, with that Moncito component, you are giving yourselves an extra layer of protection with additional certification saying that you are absolutely going above and beyond and doing everything you need to do to serve the community as a whole. Moncito also offers a robust dashboard and some analytical tools that the core system within Web Central, which is our website platform, does not allow for, giving you some additional insights as to the content you're posting and the other things that are happening within the background of the website that you wouldn't have access to within the core Web Central solution itself.
Thank you, Liz, for the clarification. On the contract side, the proposal, the $44,878.99, that's to onboard for all the services. So the team looked at all the proposals, and I was impressed with the quality depth of the proposals we received, and 64 Robots, Apogee, great products. It came down to strategy. What's going to be our strategy to make our website a digital destination? And that's where we're shooting for. But I was amazed with the level of expertise and technology that's out there. So for us, as making our online destination, it's important to consider all the other products that we have. So the challenges we have with our current providers, not just our website, it's our agenda management, it's our streaming services, and so on. So we're looking for a platform that we could enhance the experience for users by being the destination for all those things. So when folks go online and watch our meetings, get our agenda packets. So this onboarding is for more products than just the website. Then there will be an ongoing fee. And the ongoing fee, based on the current products, this would allow us to replace our streaming services and our agenda management. That's going to come out to $28,758 to replace the agenda management, which now will be Civic Clerk, and the Civic Plus Media. So it's going to be more than just our website. Now, this is a long-term strategy. Granicus doesn't know the full scope of this yet, but they're watching. They now know.
And that's what I, sorry, what I wanted to ask about is, because it looked like it was annually $28,000 for this. How much are we currently paying for our monthly for the website service?
Well, Liz can't go back on this offer now. What we're paying Granicus for equivalent service is $39,000 is going up to $42,000 a year, which on an annualized basis.
Okay, and so and this is actually doing even. Is this going to do more than Granicus? It's replacing some other things we were also paying for?
I think some of it is it's a different service, but from our strategy, this is going to replace core functions, that the agenda management and how we organize our meetings, minutes, and council packets, and then how we stream our meetings. That's that Civic Plus Media. There are other things that under this proposal aren't quite equal replacements. For example, currently with Granicus, we have the GUD delivery platform. Under the Civic Plus, it's Civic Engage, and that's going to replace that newsletter function. So it's a different tool. What would be different from the GUD delivery model right now is that under GUD delivery, a constituent can sign up for our numerous newsletters that we have, at the same time subscribe to county newsletters and other government agencies, because we're all on this Gov delivery platform. So that's different, but in terms of a delivery mechanism for a newsletter, we're replacing that with this Civic Engage.
Okay.
Liz, did I properly cover Civic Engage?
Yes, we're changing the nomenclature of a lot of our solutions today, so I don't expect you to stay up to date with that. Civic Send is the module that you'll be utilizing to send out those newsletters.
Makes it easier to name.
But the bottom line is that that we're saving money for the same, and in some cases, better services. That's the important thing.
Councilmember McKinney.
Just two questions. Will the website be mobily responsive?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. And then the second question is, as you're going through the design process, will we be able to see like wireframes before you actually start building it out so that we can actually see the click stream and weigh in on some of that? Is that possible?
Yeah, I was going to ask sort of the same question a little bit more broadly, just in terms of public engagement. So while you're, and Ms. Andrews and Ms. Vesta, so while you're designing the website, what opportunities will there be for the public to weigh in? And will there be like a beta website or something, but like wireframes, beta, and then the rollout? How does that work?
Well,
Sure. So there's, go ahead, Chandra,
Liz.
please. I think the best way to go about this is that we really work alongside of you to do this. So not only does your current website stay up while we build your new website on a content management system, we do build it on what we call like a dummy website, essentially. So we're taking the content from your current site, giving your residents a place to go while you're continuing the project with us, and giving you some insights there while you work within our dummy or demo site, so to speak. We train you on that site. I don't think that there's any qualms with asking for a beta launch or even some feedback from the public before it goes live. We can give you access to that and have you show them what that looks like, how things are changing, what your vision is moving forward, and what kinds of pieces of your community that you've put on the site specifically for your residents moving forward, and allowing them to play within that. I would recommend that during your implementation process, you take the opportunity to express that to your project manager and say that that's an initiative that's very important to the city of Greenbelt and to the residents that you serve, and ask if the possibility of having a beta test or maybe even some residents playing around with the site before it launches is possible. And because we have a number of staff members who have sat in numerous seats in local government before, I think that it'll be widely accepted and even possible.
I think that's something that's pretty important, Miss Andrews.
And I just want to add that we will be also looking at Google Analytics to see the pages where our residents most likely visit and incorporate those movements within the website as well. And also just to remind that migrating a website takes time, and we're trying to do this in 6 months. So it's going to be on a little bit of an accelerated schedule. So I just want to put that out there to the public.
Do appreciate that. But the public engagement for residents and maybe some business folks, or just a cross-section of people, having a chance for them to weigh in on the usability and whatnot is very important. Yeah, City Manager.
Two things, Mr. Mayor. On the public feedback, I do not doubt that our residents will let us know what they like and don't like. So I'm confident we'll get some good feedback. But Liz and Chandra, could you cover the uplift, the facelift that we can get after a certain time period?
Yes, within the scope of work that we have presented to all of you, there is a 4-year or 48-month redesign process that is within that scope of work that you'll be paying for year over year. And so in 4 years, what your client success manager will do is give you a call, maybe it'll be Chandria, maybe it'll be Mr. Salmoran, and we'll say it's time to do a redesign with you. And what we do is we take all of the new trends and all of the things that we're seeing across local government websites and present you with an opportunity to make changes and update the site as you see fit. Maybe that's because your community has changed significantly, or maybe you have a new town logo. All of those things are possible. It's not as intensive as this first go round, but it is a really great way to refresh the site after a number of years, keeping things fresh and up to date.
It's great. I think Riverdale Park may be one of your clients, and they just unveiled a new logo. I don't think we'll be changing our logo in anytime soon, as far as I know. Anything's possible. But any other questions from council?
No, there's two, I think one comment that was already answered, but one additional comment online. So Michael says, was asking about the mobile, have different navigation, that sometimes many websites have different navigation protocols for computers, laptops, and mobile devices. Will the website function the same for mobile devices as it does for computers and laptops? That sounds like it will be maybe not function the same, but it should function well.
Yeah.
And then the other comment from Michael was beta testing by users of assistive technology is highly recommended, as ADI guidelines are just that, guidelines, and sometimes aspects of the site are compliant but not usable in real life usage. Yeah, those are actually, I think a lot of those guidelines are in some senses a bare minimum. It's not that it's necessarily the best, but those, like the actual 508 compliance rules and stuff, are the minimum.
To answer one of those questions, Liz, do you mind covering the customization that residents can do once they create they log in? They're able to change some of the flows on their version. Is that correct?
Yes, with that Moncito tool, you can have a front-facing accessibility tool that allows your residents to change the font, contrast, color, spacing, and so on. It also will allow for screen readers to make sure that those who are using some accessibility tools at home are still able to interact with the site itself. And those who may have maybe lesser known disabilities like dyslexia or color blindness and things that we don't talk about at a high level all the time, they will still be able to interact with the website as they see fit. And if they choose to create a website sign-in, login, and password, those preferences will be saved. So each and every time they come to visit the website, it will automatically know who they are and be able to adjust accordingly.
Councilmember McKinney.
Just one quick question. How many languages will this be able to adapt to?
We do have a partnership with Google Translate on the City of Annapolis site. It was following us in the, you don't mind if I share my screen for just another moment, here on the bottom right-hand corner. I can utilize any of these languages, and any of the content that you put out on the site, the core content itself, can be translated to the selected language. The only thing that it does not translate, I do believe, are PDFs.
Now, Liz, I understand that the Annapolis site also has a dedicated page in Spanish. Is there a sub-page that they have?
They might. I am unaware of the subpage written only in Spanish. Do you know what the page is in reference to,
I
Mr.
think
Salmon?
it's Juntos Annapolis.
You said Juntos?
Juntos together. Juntos con Annapolis.
I apologize. I was not prepared to share that with us today.
That's a good point. Earlier today, you were mentioning something about landing pages so that residents can, if they are looking for something in particular, the information will all be in one place. I'm kind of fascinated, not to get into the weeds, with this category-based protocol that you're using with our current website. There are a lot of documents that are PDFs, which is not a good thing necessarily, but those PDFs do not have meaningful names. So when you search, you don't really get good results. So when you say category-based naming conventions. Is that what you mean? That pages will have a meaningful name that's understandable and related when you do a search?
No, not necessarily. So when I say category-based, within the modules itself, there are over 40 that allow you to do some dynamic moves and dynamic content within the content management system itself. And by module, I'm referencing things like calendar, notify me, civic send, our citizen request tracker, all of those things are modules. And the categories that you put within those modules are places where information can live. The stuff that you upload to the site, PDFs, just regular page content, etc., can be searchable within the site. When you create a new page, you can do a number of things. Not only can you just post content as you need to, but you'll be able to give weight or words or keywords to certain pages if you so choose, or PDFs to make it easier to search. You can also tell the system to suggest certain information based on search results and the weight of importance of the document that you're putting on there. So categories are more related to things like calendar functionality and that notify me module where you're able to select what kinds of notifications you're getting. So within that, we ask you to create different categories, so should you so choose, to differentiate where that content is going. But your regular content, just pages, agendas, minutes, all of those things will be searchable within the site. And you could give them extra information if you so choose, but it would come up in a site search should you need it, without any specific nomenclature needed.
Okay, I understand. Thank you so much. Just one final question. So in Annapolis or other of our sister cities in the area, how many people are charged with updating the site? Do department heads, various department heads or designees from various departments update the site, or does it fall on one or two people?
I think that would be up to you and your team. You can have a number of people working within the site. We do have an unlimited model in terms of administrative users. We do have a granular level of permissions available within the site as well. So you don't have to give the keys to the kingdom to everyone, but you can give access and editing tools out to whoever you so choose, whether that be department heads, just Chandria, just Mr. Salmoran, yourselves, etc. We give you a lot of flexibility there. And during the implementation process, we also give you those best practices as well and what recommendations we might make that we have found out either throughout training or just the website build.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
And I'd like to add that moving forward, we're going to have a representation from each department. They're going to be trained to make the changes to their areas. And then myself or James will approve or provide suggestions if it's not compliant with what our design and communication standards are.
Very good. Thank you so much. Really thorough information. Yes, Councilmember Pompey.
I'd like to move that the council
There you go.
authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Civic Plus for the website redesign project and services for a total cost of $44,878.99.
I'll second. Ms. Pope beat me out. She seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Hey, thank you, Ms. Adams. Thank you, Ms. Vestra. We're really excited about this process. Yeah. Hey, let's go on to, from websites, we're going to move to sewer cameras. So item number 18 is to authorize.
Let's go right to the
Makes
sewer.
sense to me. No, this is item number 16, to authorize the city manager to approve purchase of the Iris mainline camera from Insight Vision. This is based on memorandum from Brian Kim. And as a part of ongoing efforts to improve the city's stormwater management system, several storm drain projects have previously been approved by council. Staff conducted extensive research into various equipment options, consulting with subject matter experts to ensure that all necessary criteria for operational efficiency, cost effectiveness, and reliability were met. This camera system is well suited for the city's needs, offering advanced features that align with our operational goals. So, staff is seeking council authorization for the city manager to execute the attached contract with Insight Vision Incorporated for the purchase of the Iris mainline camera. The total cost for the equipment is $37,787, which will be funded through the allocated American Rescue Plan funds for stormwater management. Brian, Kim, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for sticking it out to this point in the meeting, and thank you for researching this piece of equipment. So, can you talk what short term? What sort of things would we be using it for? I know there's a lot of challenges with the size of some of our stormwater management pipes, and it's hard to really see what the problem is. So, do you want to just describe real briefly what the camera is like? And I guess there's some background information, but just tell us what we need to know.
Sure. Good evening. It was primarily driven by planning. As funding was allotted to do some stormwater management and assessment, we thought that it was a good idea to invest in this versus hire out or subcontract. One of the primary drivers for this particular unit was, and it's right there here, it says easy to use. We are not experts, so we will get spun up on how to use this sort of equipment. It is, I don't want to say plug and play, but it's mobile, it's efficient. We've got accessories that allows us to scale the size of piping from 6 all the way up to 18 inches. And we found that this was the best value.
So, in the past, the recent past, when we needed this kind of service, we would have to outsource it or hire a firm.
That's correct.
Right. So
we have to hire somebody.
Right. And how much do you think we've got so many projects going on right now. I guess we spend a lot of money on outsourcing.
The last time Public Works hired someone was for the dam project.
That dam project,
That's
right?
correct. That was
Okay.
actually a planning project, but we assisted on a technical level. So I believe at one point we paid, I want to say $1,200. That was 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously the price is probably going up. It's pre-COVID.
Thank you, Brian. In terms of scope, Mr. Mayor, we have a lot of sewer systems that have not been given over to the county. So until we were able to give those, so that have those systems be maintained and owned by the county, we're responsible for their maintenance and inspection. So having this system will allow us to inspect those sewers. But there are other uses for it too. We have culverts that are not part of the storm systems. We have erosion that has happened on city property that we will use this. We have 2 recent examples where we did some work. One was in the front of the Co-op grocery store. The slab underneath, the sidewalk slab underneath, the area underneath it had eroded. And so having such a tool would have made it easier to inspect that cavity. There's also the issue that Mr. Roberts brought that's in front of the Arts Center that had eroded underneath. So having these tools make those kinds of inspections much easier.
Councilmember Niesel?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I'm fully in favor of this. I think it's a very important infrastructure purchase for the city to make, and I thank you for doing the research and bringing the quote to us. I'd like to move that we authorize the city manager to execute the attached contract with Insight Vision for the purchase of the Iris mainline camera at a total cost for the equipment of $37,787, which will be funded through the allocated ARPA funds for stormwater management.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Ms. Pompey.
I have a question
Okay,
as well.
discussion? Yeah.
So are we getting both the motorized reel and also like that crawler?
Exactly. So the crawler is actually the unit that shoots the video.
Okay.
So it attaches to the cable. So that's all one. This is all one unit right here.
Got it. Okay, sorry, I was just,
No, it's okay. And then you have the controller. So this comes with the control. So that would operate.
That looks exactly like my kid's Xbox controller. It's like identical to it. It really is.
More like a Sony
point.
PlayStation, but yes, exactly.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
It's a proprietary secret there. Don't want to let that out.
Exactly the same.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, any comments? Let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, 6-1. Thank you, Mr. Kim. Thank you so much. Item number 17 is a is to authorize the city manager to execute contracts for electric vehicle infrastructure charging at the community center parking lot. And Mr. Somerone produced a memo about this on the 6th. Staff is requesting council's authorization to execute a contract with Blue Whale EV, LLC, for the installation of electric vehicle charging stations at the community center library parking lot. The project cost is $225,759.30, of which $195,735.30 will be covered by the American Rescue Plan Act funds. The remaining $30,000 will be funded through a bond bill allocation from the state or from potential rebates and refunds from the IRS and PEPCO. So, City Manager Somerone, this is
Recording stop. Recording in progress.
That's okay. We've been talking about this for a while, and I believe you proposed, and we're working with contractors to see if it would be possible to install some EV charging stations. So we have a number of city vehicles, electric vehicles that are parked there for code enforcement. I think there are about 4 or 5 out there. Every time I look, it seems like they're multiplying. So will the charging stations be for city vehicles, or will they be accessible to the public as well?
Both. So we wanted to be intentional that if we are going to take public right-of-way for fleet vehicles, that they should be available to the public as well. We will sort out what the availability would be, but the intent is that they would be dual purpose.
So quickly, do you have a diagram that shows the parking lot?
Yeah, yes, we do. It's included in the application in the
up on the
proposal.
screen?
Yes, we can. Do you have that handy?
I have it here.
Sanders? Okay.
Because parking, as we know, this weekend with the Sparkle Mart, sometimes when there's a special event at the library or the community center, there's no place to park. Yeah.
There's some challenges now. The EV charging stations, I think we have enough users that when I was at Sparkle Mart this weekend, and there's plenty of EVs in the parking lot. So if anything, those vehicles could go park in those spaces as they are available. The working with the site is challenging. One, because of the availability of where electrical service is. We identify this area as being the closest to a transmission line that could provide 40 amps of power to power all these charging stations. There's still some challenges. We still need to run it off a pole into a transformer and then run secondary line from the transformer to the site. This is the closest we can get to a service area on this side of the campus. The EV plan, we presented the EV plan to council or draft version several months ago. We identified several different areas where we would like to install EV charger stations. This site had been identified several years ago, and it's just been a long process to get us to where we are, where we have the funding. Council judiciously set aside $200,000 to support EV infrastructure. At the time, we were running into some roadblocks of being able to build this for $200,000. We found a couple partners through our relationship with MML and those conferences. So we've spoke with 3 different vendors. One piecemealing the work. The other 2 provide a turnkey solution. Blue Whale. Well, we like the proposal from Blue Whale. One, from a cost perspective, it was a little lower than the other at $195,000, and there's a carve out for that primary service at $30,000. I feel like I'm going off on a tangent, but in terms of location, this is the closest we can get to a service area to minimize the cost. The major cost of installing EV infrastructure is not the charging stations themselves, is the infrastructure, is getting that primary service line to a location with the transformers. The charging stations themselves are relatively affordable. A unit can cost as low as $5,000, a dual port unit. It's all the stuff leading up to that charge point. Sorry, to that charger.
I have a couple of questions, but just to get this out of the way, let me go ahead and make a motion to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Blue Whale EV LLC for the installation of electric vehicle charging stations at the community center library parking lot. Total cost of $225,735.30. And also $195,735.30 covered by ARPA funds, and the remaining 30 to come from other sources. It's been seconded. So I was just wondering, so is this with the power line that's coming through, the power source, is it the same source that is powering the lights at Brayton Field baseball and the tennis courts?
No, that will be behind the meter. We're going to have a separate, it will be a new service line with a dedicated meter.
Okay, and I was just wondering about how modular it is. I was reading as we have more and more vehicles in at peak times, it might be important to have at some point in the future more EV charging stations there. It's a good place for charging stations for the patrons of the library as well as the community center, as well as the recreation, the youth center and whatnot. So is it modular so it could expand?
The system, we're future-proofing the system with one charger by installing the 80 kW fast charger. It's a dual-port 80 kW fast charger. That's future-proofing in creating space where some vehicles could charge faster and get out. From a power consumption or power output, that DC fast charger could be broken up into 4 level 2 chargers. There's some challenges doing that with the space premium that those parking spaces hold. So we felt that these 8 charging stations are probably the most we could squeeze out of that space because of the size of the parking lot. Those 8 chargers are taking up 10 parking spaces. And the reason they're taking up 10 parking spaces is that we want to add an ADA unit, an ADA parking unit for vans, and some of those are becoming more common now. We're seeing the minivans, we're seeing the transportation vans, and those required. They need to take up 2 parking spaces to accommodate those vehicles. So the first parking space, and with the diagram that Ms. Weaver had, that ADA unit would be the closest to the library. And it's all where the grade is the easiest. It's flatter in that area than it is on the higher top. So we needed to take those elements into consideration. So on this site, Mr. Mayor, I don't think that our current plan does not include expanding more charging stations at this site. What we're considering is the other locations that we can install charging stations. But the next one in the priority list would be the Budding Attic parking lot, followed by working with Pepco on what's going to be the strategy of their Shell EV charging units. Those units have a reputation of being unreliable in the sense that they go offline and it takes a while to bring them back online. And that's one of the criticisms of EV users, is that many of these units go offline and it takes a long time to bring up. So following that step, we want to work with Pepco and seeing how we make improvements to those areas. The one that I have on my radar that I think is important is the Spring Hill Lake Recreation Center. We have 1 charging port and we have room to add a couple more, and that could be behind the meter from a transformer we already have. And that would be easy to accommodate because we couldn't add many parking spaces there because of the limitations of the parking lot.
Yeah, and real quick, the monetization of funding model. So Blue Whale they would collect the funds, and we would be paid for the electricity, and they would receive a portion to cover their infrastructure.
Correct. Both 2 of the 3 proposals we receive have a lot of flexibility on how we run the model. So after we do this installation, we'll be coming back to council on how council envisions running an EV charging platform. We can choose to be the active operator, where we set the rate, we collect the fees and manage all that, or we can hand it over to a third-party provider. with the city running it as the operator, we have a lot of flexibility. We can designate the fleet vehicles. Right now, we will have fleet vehicle cars that anyone with a fleet vehicle car, they would just tap their car and charge. It's a city vehicle. But we can set different rates for different times and different types of users. So the system is flexible in that sense that we will have a lot of flexibility in setting the rate.
Got it. Mayor Pro Tem and Mr. Roberts?
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to note, I appreciated the calling out the connection to council goals in the memo. That was nice to see where this lined up. I thought that was a good addition.
I was inspired by Ms. McKinney.
I think I see it is already. It's I think that's a good way to keep us on track in terms of how are the things that we're doing actually leading towards the things we said we wanted to do. So it looked like it's a total of 8 vehicles can charge at a time. Is that correct? Or sorry, 10 vehicles at a time can charge, 8 level 2s and 2 at the level 3s.
8 vehicles, six level 2s and 2 level 3s.
Okay, and I guess when we had originally talked about it, it was just going to be level 2 chargers. Now I think it makes some sense, but can you talk a little bit why the fast charger was added?
You know, I was open to hearing feedback from the team. And one of the feedbacks I heard that the EV vehicles, our fleet vehicles, could sit for a long time on the level 2s. So one way of creating more rotation in the units in the parking lots is by having level 3s where our fleet vehicles could charge for 30 minutes and get enough to start around, and then they can go back into regular parking space so we can free up versus having them sit at the charging stations overnight. So that's one issue, one of the feedback I heard, and I was open to that. It also tapped into this idea of future-proofing the charging stations. But you're correct when we discussed this with the EV team that we envision this entire area being destination chargings. So a slight modification. It gets us within the allotted budget that council gave us, that 200,000. So we wanted to squeeze as much as we could with the 200,000.
And this parking lot, is this our parking lot or is it the library's parking lot?
Our parking lot.
It is our parking lot, okay. But I hope we will coordinate. I mean, I think it'll be a benefit for the library as well to have.
Oh,
those things.
absolutely.
Yeah, and then my last question is, so what is the timeline once we approve this contract? How long will it take to get everything installed?
There are elements to the work that's outside of our control. That is the Pepco engineering and getting Pepco to sign off, and then the lead time to have a 40 amp transformer delivered to us. Those are things that once we have authorization to proceed, we would engage the electrical engineering and start putting in the order for that transformer. So those will be the things to hold up. But once your approval is made, we have 2 years to execute the project, but I would hope and expect to deliver this in the next 12 months.
12 months, okay. I understand you're not promising that. I just wanted to get a sense of, is this a 6-month project, a 12-month project? And again, I guess it has to be less than 2 years because of the ARPA money, but.
One thing I would like to note that there's in the language, the total project that you're approving is $225,735.30. That includes a $30,000 allowance for Pepco. And speaking with the team, Pepco has waived the engineering and the service line fee on many of these projects because they have an internal calculation that I'm not privy to on how their payback period works. And the idea that payback period works is how much kilowatt do they expect, how much electricity they expect to sell through this investment, and are they able to recover their costs. So if this project fits that formula that they have, they're likely to waive the fee. The second funding streams that we're expecting is reimbursements, rebates through Pepco and other service providers. So this cost may not be incurred by the city, or if it is, we may be reimbursed for it. So we're not asking council for the full $225,000. through ARPA. We're just asking for that 195, but you're approving a project of up to 225 with the idea that the 30,000 is going to come from other sources. We do have one source from the state. That's the state bond bill. The state gave us 150,000 for EV infrastructure. So we're going to use that money, but we want to designate that money for other locations, primarily the Buddy Attic Park. If we do not get the funding from the feds that we apply for funding from the federal government for over $2 million to do EV infrastructure throughout the city. So if that grant doesn't come through, we'll fulfill on the Buddy Attic promise of EV charger stations through the bond bill money.
Okay, Mr. Roberts?
Well, you kind of partly answered what I had to say, but I was wondering, in the long term, are we going to recoup all the public money that's put into the infrastructure?
Eventually we will, if council chooses to include infrastructure investments as part of the rate that we charge EV vehicles. It is common that the EV infrastructure gets paid through these grants, and the rate that we're charging the vehicles is paid, or it covers the ongoing maintenance and replacement of the equipment.
But doesn't cover the initial investment, though.
Because it comes from grant funds.
Well, regardless, if it's a private contractor putting in charging stations, they're going to make money on it. They're not only going to recoup their cost, their total cost, but they're going to make money on it. So that's what I'm wondering, what are we doing? Because, the reason I asked that, because we provided free electricity down here at the municipal building at the charging station there for quite a while. I don't know how long it was, a year or so, a couple of years. So
I don't know the details of that free electricity. I know we're not doing it now.
It wasn't a year, maybe a year, but it was at the very beginning, but it definitely wasn't 2 years. Then we stopped.
yeah, so I'm just wondering, how that's gonna work out.
And that would be a council initiative or directive, how we set that rate. Internally, I feel that the investment is going to pay for itself by meeting our carbon reduction goals. The more infrastructure we have for fleet vehicles, the less dependent we are on fossil fuels. So internally, we have these goals of reducing our carbon footprint and electrifying our fleet. So more infrastructure means faster for us to electrify our fleet.
Well, as I've discussed with this, many times, electric cars are, they're a different kind of car, and they are, they don't put out any exhaust out of the tailpipe, but there's exhaust coming out of those stacks that are providing the electricity. And when I look at most of the electric cars, they're pretty fancy, and they take a lot of natural resources to build. So my question is are they really going to improve the environment in the long run, and are they going to have any effect on climate change? And I think that looking at it from a mechanical standpoint and the cost and the where you get the resources, the natural resources that go into building cars, period, no matter what kind of car it is, whether that's a sustainable system, I think, is questionable. So,
Well,
I always want to know that, these investments are going to pay for themselves as far as the public money that goes into them, because I think the public deserves that. We don't subsidize a lot of things, that maybe we should, but we don't. So I think the things that we do subsidize have to have a widespread uh, they have to provide something good for a large number of people, I think, for a wide range of people. So I'm skeptical of the electric cars because of the amount of resources that goes into them. And not only that, but when people when people are led to believe that the cars are going to be better for the environment and stuff, we're going to have more of them. And then we're going to need more roads and more highways and more of the same things that caused the climate change in the first place. So, yeah, it's a lot of thought that needs to go into that.
I appreciate the feedback, Mr. Roberts, and we're, from a policy perspective, Council, through its 2024 Council Planning Framework, explicitly called out expanding EV infrastructure to support the transition to electric vehicles. So this project helps deliver on that. It is also in line with the reduction of carbon emission and promoting green technology. So the administration's position is that this project's in line with the directives that Council, both the vision and directive that Council has set for the city and administration. I'm sorry?
Mean that I have to agree with it.
And I'm just sharing that I'm doing my job as Council has asked us to do our jobs.
Councilmember McKinney.
Just a quick follow-up to one of the questions maybe that Mr. Roberts was getting to. So when will we have to, or when will we be able to discuss when those fees need to be determined? When does that fall in the process? I know we're just talking about the building of it right now, but when will that actually happen?
The goal is for the EV team to come back and present the final EV plan, and I'm looking over at Tim because we need to finalize that process. We have completed our PEPCO fleet assessment, which looked at the entire city vehicle fleet and how we could transition to that. So we've done that assessment. Now we're moving closer to implementation and finalizing our EV plan. So we're going to bring that back to Council via a work session to adopt an EV plan. And I think at that time, we can talk about setting the rate on this system. On the platform, there are numerous systems out there for EV charging infrastructure. I'm sure some of you, I have multiple apps. I've got Shell, I've got the Blink, I've got ChargePoint. We decided to go with Blink for one. The Blink relocated its headquarters to Prince George's County. So if we need support, they're just down the street. This is their national headquarters now. So the support is closer and then reach than some of the other providers. We currently use ChargePoint for fleets at the public works station, and it's a great platform. But for this one, we're taking a step in a different direction.
Okay. Hey, let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that measure does pass. And that's going to bring us to item number 18, which is an item authorizing the city manager to execute purchase of basketball court solar lights. And this is from a memorandum from Mr. Summerone on the 6th. Staff is requesting authorization to purchase 2 solar lights for the new basketball courts at Spring Hill Lake Recreation Center. This strategic investment it's going to enhance recreational opportunities for residents by allowing safe use of the courts during evening hours. This purchase aligns with Council's goal to, quote, expand access to recreation programs, unquote, under the focus area of expanding access to quality education, recreation, youth development, and workforce development programs for young adults. So the authorization would be for the city manager to execute the purchase of solar lights for the new basketball courts at Spring Hill Lake Recreation Center in the amount of $10,999. So, Mr. Samaron, do you want to put a picture of what the lights are going to look like and talk about the time frame? You know, it's just it's amazing how much work has been accomplished here in the city of Greenbelt through the American Rescue Plan funding and also the other capital projects like this. So, gosh, it just seems like with this project and other projects with winter coming in, this is something for next spring?
Yes, the limiting factor here would be the concrete footers that would need to be installed. Those are weather dependent, but the equipment is the team, the Fon Roche lighting quote. They promised to get us to us within 4 weeks, so the lights will be here within a month's time. The issue would be when can we pour concrete for the footer.
The electrical connection is there?
Solar. It's powered by the sun.
What happens if there's cloudy weather, or maybe if a volcano explodes in Iceland?
Well, if volcano explodes, we got a problem. I wouldn't worry about the lights. But if it's these solar panels can produce electricity with just ambient light. The lighting profile that's included in the packet has I believe it's a 6 hour runtime. It can fully charge the batteries and run overnight. So there are a couple scenarios that the vendor provided us. The vendor's recommendation is for a lighting for a basketball of this size. The position where it's located, this two lighting system with the panels that it has are sufficient for us to run a 6 hour nightly lighting scenario. So if the sun goes down at 5, these things could run until 11 o'clock at night. Now, we will probably not run them at 100% for that length of time. The team is conscious of quiet hours around Franklin Park, and we want to honor those quiet hours. And also, we want to close the courts when the time that the recreational facilities close, because the site will be unsupervised. Mm-hmm.
Now that diagram that you've got up looks pretty cool. It sort of looks like the lights are just shining out in a random fashion, but that's not how they work. They'll be focused, so they'll be focusing downward. They won't just be shining outwards.
Correct. There's a lighting diagram that the team designed. It's in the packet. Ms. Anderson, if you can go to that, the page called application design, and if you go to page, I believe it's page 6 of the page 10 document. That diagram shows the light intensity at different points on the court. So the lighting is going to be pointed down focused on the courts. Correct.
Let's see, Ms. Pope.
Yeah, so no, I was wondering about the lights too, because they're, the apartments right next to it, so we're shining.
We're not shining lights onto the apartment lights. And there's some buffer between the courts and the apartments. On the backside, there's a wooded area and trees. So there is some shading there. And then on if you recall with the basketball court, it's nestled behind. On one side, on two sides, it has vegetation. On one side, it has the playground area. And then on the other side where the creek is, there's significant distance between the court and the apartment units on that side of Franklin Park.
And we can control how long the lights are on.
Oh, absolutely.
You can set it how you want.
Yes, we can control both the timing and the intensity of the lights. So these are 4,000, the lighting, the type of light, it's 4,000. It's very bright light.
Yeah, it looks very white, very bright.
Kelvins, is that what it is? Lumens, it look or kelvins.
And the pricing, I think, is very reasonable too. I was expecting something more, I think. But anyways, at this time, I would like to move that council authorize the city manager to purchase solar lights for the new basketball courts at Spring Hill Lake Rec Center in the amount of $10,999.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Discussion, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, what do we know about the lifespan of this system? How long is it supposed to last before needing either a battery replacement, or not so much talking about like the light bulbs, but just like the overall system?
The proposal includes an 8-year warranty on the product. So should the battery and the solar panels fail, they're warranty for 8 years. And speaking with the team, they're expecting these things to go 10 years and later. We may not have the same capacity as we would in year 1 and year 10. So if we're running them for the full spectrum of the night as parking lights, then we would see a degradation in the battery and the lighting. But because we don't anticipate having it running full time overnight, I don't think that's going to be an issue for us. But eventually the battery is going to degrade.
But if the warranty is 8 years, and if they'll last, that seems like a reasonable thing. And then I guess my other sort of a plug is to think about the possibility, because as Ms. Pope pointed out, this is a reasonable price. I still keep getting requests from the volleyball players about the volleyball courts, and not having to run power. I mean, there are already the tennis court lights, but I don't know if this is a solution for the volleyball courts for them to be able to play at night as well.
I'm sorry, we didn't contemplate the volleyball users on this project.
No, well, no, and I think it's great to have it at Spring Hill Lake. It's just like I think it will get used in the especially this time of year when it it's sunset is before 5.
Yeah.
And so I think having that, but also the volleyball players would like to have light because so just plug in that again.
One clarification on the price. This action's coming to you because it exceeds the $10,000 by $999, and if you can see from the quote, it actually is due to shipping. So it's not the product itself, but this does not include the installation. The vendor has connected me with a local installer if for any reason we want to go with a local installer to install the footers. But Mr. Roberts probably knows very well, installing some concrete footers is not difficult, but we may outsource that work if necessary, but it should not be significant.
Yeah, these might work out at the basketball courts over in Schramm Hills Park. But I'm wondering, so how tall are these lights? I mean, if you were standing at the basketball court and you were to throw a basketball at one of the lights, how hard would it be to hit one of the lights?
Well, a guy as tall as you and your aim, I don't think it's going to be hard at all.
No,
if you're aiming for it.
It might be, and it might take a while.
Their height and their position in a way that if you're shooting a basketball court or if you're knocking a ball in the air from someone who shot a shot, I don't think they're like that.
It's possible to be blocking a shot.
Yeah. These are outdoor lights. They can take some hits from a ball, but if someone's there underneath it and trying to knock out the lights, that's possible to happen.
Okay.
I hope that they're not going to do that. But.
Any other questions? Let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And that will bring us to item number 19, which is an American Rescue Plan Act status update. The attached ARPA update memo provides an overview of the results from the reallocation projects the council authorized in November. Tim George, Assistant City Manager, will present an addendum to this memo on Monday, which will include a comprehensive update on the ARPA progress, complete with related graphics and charts. Whoa. This update will offer a clear view of the current status and outcomes of the American Rescue Plan Act funded initiatives. Mr. George.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So the memo in your packet, what we really wanted to show was the progress that we've made on the reallocation projects. And then I also had James, who does great work, do a quick one-pager for you. And we did a 6-page brochure or leaflet for you all a month or so ago that really hit all the bells and whistles, and we're developing that one for you now. But what I really want to highlight on the graphic that we handed out this evening, and it was on the table for the residents, was that we're basically at this point we're 92% spent on all of our projects, and that's projects that are either completed or already obligated under contract. And we only have, basically that's, we've got 1.73 in pending, and those are projects that we're going to bring before you at for a final decision in the next 2 weeks. And then those are some other projects like the food services. Those are projects that we will continue to spend money on over the next 2 years. Are not, like contractual projects, but MOU projects, that falls under the pending. When you look at the numbers, we're just about there. We've got about 70,000, 75,000 left. We're going to just kind of hang on to that last 75 for just another couple weeks to make sure all the numbers work out the way we think they're going to work out, because we don't want to overspend and then have to dip into our own budget. There's a number of projects and things queued up that when we get in the next 2 weeks before that last decision point by council, if we need to spend that last money, you can get a couple of EVs, you can get a police car. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with lost revenue, $75,000. So we're not worried at all about having to give the 75 back, but we would like to hold on to it for another couple of weeks just to make sure. The numbers are changing. People do understand. Like we had a project came in that doubled in price overnight because they understand that it's ARPA and that people have to spend their money. So we're just conscious of having a little bit of leftover money, and then if we get to that point, we can spend it at the very end.
Appreciate that. So you've mentioned something that I was talking with City Manager Summerone about this afternoon. And I don't know, council members and the public may have noticed that there were a bunch of contracts on the agenda tonight, and that's been the case at the last 1 or 2 council meetings. So the city manager has recommended that we consider the possibility of scheduling a special meeting on the 18th of December, just to kind of tie up these final ends with the ARPA funding. So I think we should go ahead and schedule that.
And there's nothing controversial that's coming to you on the 18th. We have just a few projects that we need to just close up. We have one nonprofit grant that we're considering. The animal shelter, we've hit some significant roadblocks with the animal shelter. We were looking at a project cost of $180,000 when we started working on the permitting and what we will need from the county, which I have my own personal opinions about following the county's permitting process. But, until things change, we have to follow that process. And the contractor that we were working with, that's the project that doubled overnight. We have a project that went from $180,000 to, again, $400,000. So we're at a loss with how to resolve the animal shelter situation. So we're back to the drawing board on how we can improve the conditions of the animal shelter without disrupting the continuity of service. That's a roadblock we hit just last week, and we're trying to solve that. We've got a couple ideas of how to deliver for improving services to the animal shelter. So if we can, for animal services, if we can do replacement or adding additional structure for the animal shelter, we're looking at redoing the subfloor that is damaged and the roof that is damaged, buying a new heat pump for the shelter and buying an external kennel, and then looking at other opportunities how we improve animal services in the city, such as upgrading water fountains in some of our parks. I've asked the team to look at a portable water system for the dog park. That is not going to cost us $125,000. So looking at a more affordable option, something that will be its own isolated system. So we're down to the wire trying to deliver on council's vision as it has set aside the money, but we're hitting some significant roadblocks. Did I miss anything, Tim?
No, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, please go ahead.
So if we did a special meeting, it would just be to talk about those particular contracts and just make sure we get those approved before December 31st.
Correct. And we have another one that we need to iron out, and I'm hopeful that we schedule the meeting with the fire department, because we have $70,000 that we need to sign an MOU or a contract with for those funds, unless council wants me to just write that check over in.
A couple of council members had expressed some reticence, just hesitation, or just the lost revenue funding was not unanimously prioritized for the remaining amount of money. But so $70,000, and you're thinking another police car? Or
Yeah, so this
radio
is
or
money
something?
that's been freed up by projects coming lower or falling through, for example, such as the animal shelter. So we heard you that you didn't want us to reimburse the admin costs, so we took that out. So we're not planning to do those things. But we do have that prioritized list in the order that it was ranked, and we're following that. So one of the projects that you approved tonight is that sewer camera that was on the list, but we didn't think that we will be able to cover because how far it was. Well, now we're able to move that up and it's get covered. We were proud to be able to buy an additional AED, an automatic external defibrillator, and a cabinet enclosure. We're going to install that at the New Deal Cafe. That project was also on the list, but it was down on the list. We've been able to move that up. So all the projects that we're working on are in line with what council had previously directed us to secure.
Okay, so that's an update. Yes.
Yeah, I just
Councilmember
want to
Vogt.
stress, the importance of animal shelter, but this has been going on for many years now, and just like the water fountain for the dog park. And I understand the 30,000 it was for water. I totally understand that, but we've got to find a solution for that. I mean, this has been going on for years now. And the animal shelter, this is a service that we're providing to our residents. This is one of our services. We need to make sure that they're housed in a proper building or in a proper facility, and this place is falling apart. So that is very important to me, because every time there is something, every time we need to cut something, it always seems like it's the animal shelter or the dog park water fountain, which I've been talking about for years. And we have all the other things that we always have been, able to do. So I really want to stress that it's very important to me.
Oh, we're
And not just to me, I mean, to many people.
Right, and I get that, and the challenge we're having is not because we're not trying. We're certainly trying. We presented different proposals to council. The challenge is coming down for 400,000. Now, certainly, if council wants to support 400,000 expenditure, we would execute that directive and build a $400,000 structure.
Well, maybe sometime down the road, we're going to have to do something.
I think over the years, or just in my short tenure here over the last 14 months, we talked about better animal services, not just for Greenbelt, but for the Four Cities Coalition and the county as a whole. There's a high demand for better service. So we know that challenge exists. I think we are constrained by our physical spaces where we have it. We explore the possibility of doing something at the Armory with the more open site. The team really put some effort into it, and it just doesn't. The site is not suitable. We don't have any other services to support the security for the animal shelter. So there's some business constraints that we have by running an animal shelter at the Armory. So the team. Ms. Pope, the team is working on finding solutions. We have identified several solutions. We're running this cost issues, 400,000. So now we're back to fixing the existing animal shelter. And it seems that we're heading in the direction that the only viable solution is to fix our current animal shelter. Is it the best solution? No. Best solution is building an entirely new structure. How do we do that in a cost-effective way that's suitable for our taxpayers?
Well, we're going to keep that on. We're going
Right.
to keep that on the forefront in some ways, even if we look into the future, because we, right now it's not saying a Prince George's County shelter. It's a Greenbelt shelter.
It's a
We're
Greenbelt.
offering that service, and we need to do it properly.
Yeah. Now.
And I understand I understand what we're running into,
Mhm.
but I do want to just mention that that is really important to many.
Yeah, and I would add that that considering all the challenges we have with our animal shelter, the floor, the moisture, the heating and cooling issues, we run a great service. I would put our service up against anyone else in the county.
Of course, yeah, we have a great
Yeah.
service. Yeah, we just have to continue to have a great service, and we have to make sure we have the proper facility for
Sure,
the
for
services
sure,
that we offer.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mr. George, thank you for your good work on this and keeping us updated. And we'll look forward to any information that happens between now and the 18th with the availability of funding and requests that are coming in. So, and finally, that's going to bring us to item number 31.
Do we want to quickly talk about council?
I guess we could do
activities?
that.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't
I'm
think
sorry,
we need to spend,
I
think.
just jumped right ahead there.
I don't think
what
we
was
need
I
to spend
thinking?
a lot of time on it, here's the list. If if anybody, if they see an activity that you attended and then you're not listed, let me know. There was, as usual, a lot going on since the last council meeting. I think, yeah, lots of stuff, especially as we get into holiday events, craft bazaar, various tree lightings and pavilion lightings, and the Roosevelt Center lighting, and the legislative dinner was very nice. I was sorry that I had to miss. I had a work conflict for the Tugwell, the Tugwell things. That seemed like really an interesting presentation.
It was a great activity. It was really, really interesting. The students from the I school, the information school, had sort of cataloged all the pieces in the Tugwell collection, and they've kind of rearranged things and moved it to the periodical room. But the students actually individually talked about each part of the project they worked on, and really, really interesting stuff. Yeah. Great partnership. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, at the dinner, I want to recognize the work of Ms. Anderson and Ms. Lashley Mullen and the team just putting together a great dinner. So,
Yeah, that was a lot of work, I know.
Very nice.
in the tree lighting ceremony, the team, the recreations team, just did an outstanding
Best ever.
job.
Every year it gets better and better. I don't know how they do it, but they did a great job.
In by virtue of extension, the cinema crew just put on a great program. It was, I don't want to say standing room only, because I want to say that we met the fire code by the number of people that we had there. But it was great turnout, full house.
And also, I want to shout out the Winter Wonderland was also really, I mean, the venturing crew put so much work into that, and it really turns those woods into a pretty magical thing.
Did an amazing job. I mean, they spend weeks and weeks on that, and yeah, they did a great.
Lots of good events.
I would just mention that I thought Sparkle Mart was like amazing. There were so many great vendors there. I loved seeing our city, you know, the museum there, and the cinema was there, which I love to see. And it was just great to see so many residents out, and, you know, great weather for it.
Saturday, the parking lots were like full. You
couldn't get in. Like, I couldn't find a space, which is a great problem to have. And the winter market was, of course, wonderful, like it always is too. So really great
I think that was on the spreadsheet, and I forgot to transfer that over. I'll add Sparkle Mart.
Well, let's. Yeah, so let's. Item number 31. And that item has to do with the space.
I can jump in on that, and Ms. Niso, if you want to add anything.
Well, pardon me, I don't have any issue with it, and I don't need to discuss it. I just need to disclose, for ethical reasons, that I work with the space with my employer. I am their fundraising consultant, so I must recuse myself from this MOU vote.
Okay. But it's on the consent agenda.
No,
It
that's
was.
why
was.
Amy
Okay,
took
so,
it off.
She took it off.
Okay.
we have to vote on it.
Okay, well, in order to do that, somebody's going to have to make a motion. I suppose I could read this out loud. The Space Free Art for All seeks to continue operations for a workforce development center and an entrepreneur incubator lab in Greenbelt West to support employment, career development, and new small business formation with a focus on young adults. The WDC and the E-Lab were created in August of 2024 at Beltway Plaza through a three-way partnership with the City of Greenbelt, Senator Alonzo Washington's, well, actually it's the Employ Prince George's American Job Center, and the space. It's not really the senator, but it's Employ Prince George's, and the continued operation expanses for both programs through 2026 is going to require $50,000 in funding, and we're going to put the funding in there from the American Rescue Plan.
Oh, I can move that we approve $50,000 in ARPA money for the continued operation and expansion of the Workforce Development Center and the Entrepreneurial Incubator Lab in Greenbelt West, hosted by the Space.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any additional discussion? All in favor, Mr. Summerone, did you have something?
Oh, I can talk about this all day. I'm incredibly impressed with the work that Shamar and the team have done. I would like to point out that you would have seen the success of the program at Sparkle Mark. They were selling craft and product that were made by the participants in the center. My daughter had it's something custom made there. We paid for it. And there's so many cool things that they're doing. My business card now is a token that's produced by the space. It's a NFC. You tap it on a phone, and there's my business card. So there's a lot of incredible things are happening there. So to give you some context, this was approved by council as part of the appropriation of ARPA funds. It is in line with this multi-pronged approach to building capacity in our community. So when we funded the food subsidy programs, we wanted to fund some workforce development to do workforce development capacity building and creating both job opportunities and entrepreneurship opportunity for our residents. So it's part of the strategy that council wanted to execute to deliver services for our residents.
Okay, if there's no additional discussion, let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion.
Abstentions.
And abstentions, yes. So it passes with an abstention.
Thank you.
Hey, there's a couple of activities coming up this week. Did you want to say, you had your hand up a little bit.
Nope.
Okay, I was just going to say, just in FYI, the employee holiday event is tomorrow at noon. And also tomorrow is the county, Prince George's delegation local county bill hearing, and that's out at the Arts Center at Prince George's College. That's from 6:30. I'll be out there to testify, but it's important to know what people are saying about other initiatives in Prince George's County. And also on Wednesday, the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, they're having their, COG is having their annual meeting reception. That's at 3:30 out at DC Water. And I think if I'm going to go, anybody else, I think we should carpool to get down there. If you
I'm
can.
going
You are
down, but
there?
I'm going to be downtown already for it because I'm at the American Geophysical Union all week. But I think you had to already RSVP. I don't know if it's possible to get on the list now if you haven't already RSVP'd.
I think it probably is, but I did RSVP.
But yeah, I will be taking the metro from the convention center.
Excellent. Okay, well, if there's no other information or business to take, you have a motion?
I don't have a motion, but the Thursday is the Cops v Kids basketball game at Spring Hill Lake Recreation Center at 5:30. And we're also having our crab meeting that evening here in council chambers starting at 7. And it will be the last meeting of Rick Ransom as the chair.
Is that right?
So
Yeah.
if anyone wants to we're going to do a little holiday celebration. So if anyone just wants to, after the basketball game, wants to just sort of pop in, I'm sure he would feel very touched because I think he's been on crab for 20 years. He's been the chair for 15. So he's sort of stepping back and to take a rest. So
He's going to stay on the committee, but he's just passing.
no,
He's going to come off?
yeah, I think he's coming off the committee. I think he's going to try and do some other things now.
Yeah, and real quick, so we've got our Prince George's PGCMA reception. That's next week at the firehouse. How's that going to work? Tickets. We have to get tickets.
Yeah, I believe I don't believe we bought tickets yet, but I know that they sent some information out about purchasing tickets.
We usually buy a
We usually do
table.
like a sponsorship type level.
But I don't know if they're going to have. That's what I'm at. I don't know if they're going to have tables exactly. But let's go ahead and close the meeting. I have a motion to adjourn. I'm sorry.
Say, on Wednesday, Senator Washington is also having his holiday party, where they're also collecting coats and things like that to donate. It may run kind of overlapping with the COG, but I will be attending Senator Washington's event before our work session on Wednesday.
It's possible to do them all. So let's. If anybody wants to make a motion,
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Need a second. Okay, all in favor,